Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back for the Collegiate Cup here in March. You already know it's your host, Life with Panda. Joining me today, though, is none other than Caster Lash and Unamused Bryson. Boys, how you doing today?
Absolutely doing fantastic. It's a big day. March Solo Collegiate Cup Finals. It is looking ultra spicy today.
All right, Bryson, how you feeling, man? You feeling as spicy as Lash?
I'm feeling good, man. We got so much action today and on a brand new map that we literally just saw drop a few weeks ago. I mean, the stakes are high and I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm just hyped.
Hey, look, I'm hyped too, man. But we got to talk about what happened last month. You guys were there, but I unfortunately, I may or may not have been there. I was watching behind the scenes, but of course, it was an incredible action unfolding there in trio zero build fashion. You already know the boys Nevify and Crisp walking away with that victory. Lash, talk about it a little bit.
That's right. For those of y'all that didn't tune in, you missed a spectacular show. And must I say, NPen Crisp Nevify shattering every single record. Like, they just broke all limits.
And you know what's crazy is that Lash didn't believe in them. That's all I'm going to say. And don't worry, that ice bath is coming. Anyway, though, we got to go through a full recap of what took place in February. So you guys can have a little taste of what you may have missed during the February show.
Chris, can they clean this up as everyone tries to make their rotate in?
Making the big move, Nevify though. The solo, a huge shot. He's able to take the knockdown. That's two. One more. The 1v3 for Nevify.
Wants the 3. Clout C, Ale King, low HP, utilizing Shockwave Hammer to try and take it, but they're too split. Frost is low and is knocked, so JG9, the 1v2, drops behind the Porta Bunker, closes the game.
But they're going to be able to toss him back into that little fortified base that the opposing player made. They're like, you know what? Thank you for creating this nice little tunnel for us to revive our teammate. But no! Alpha just gets snagged away, and now they have to finish him. We love Cold. But we'll see if we can get a little bit of a intricacy of Cold here as the frags continue out. Chicken, Kaizen, Michael find their opponents on the other side of the wall. They were just camping in there.
Taking a lot of damage now. This is scary for them. Multiple teams looking towards them. It's going to be Xcept as well. And NPen wants to push them off, so it's going to use the left click with the hammer. Splits everyone. So now Chaos will be broken out. 2 players are knocked. Crisp as well. So he wants to try and utilize all of these shields.
I mean, look, if you missed it, we kind of caught you up, but next time you're just going to have to tune in because honestly, the zero build action is insane and you definitely don't want to miss any of those future events. Now, though, we got to talk about today's events. Leading up to this finals that we're getting ready to watch today were 2 qualifiers. So 2 separate weeks of qualifying action led to this moment here. Now, you may be wondering, who is qualified and how or what are they competing for? Well, don't worry. Lash is going to break down the pricing. And of course, our boy Bryson is going to tell us about the players competing today.
That's right. We got that beautiful prizing up there. $1,000 taken away for that first place prize. And of course, $800 for that second and third for that 600. However, this is a little bit different than we've seen of past Collegiate Cups because everybody in the finals today gets some of that sweet cheddar up there at $200, looking absolutely beautiful, cascading up towards that $500 range near that top 5, which is ultimately what all of these players are going to be fighting for. They want that not only placement for those dollary dues, but also for that pride to go into the friend groups and be like, yeah, that's right, I got top 5. What's good, guys?
What's good indeed. But look, we got to talk about the players that are competing today because remember, again, there were 2 qualifier opportunities for players to get their or make their way over to the event finals, which we are watching today. Now, Bryson, break down qualifier 1 for us.
So that being said, you know, we had 50 people from each qualifier that were able to come in today with the 100-player lobby. Going into qualifier number 1, you had Hydra Season in first place with 147 points, putting him only 2 points ahead of our second place with Rander, who was actually at a tie with third, which was just broken by the elim counts right there, where he had a whopping 41 elims compared to third place with only 28. That's over. I mean, that's a decent amount ahead right there, just showing. And the thing is, with those elims, is going into this qualifier or to this finals, elims are now 2 points instead of 1. So if he's going to be dropping, you know, hot games like that, then those elims are going to be worth a lot of points. But even going down farther, you have Muxu in 4th, Keschel in 5th. That top 5 right there is only within a 7-point range. That being said, everything else after that drops off a lot, going down to the 20s pretty fast. So this top 5, these players in it, if they're going to be able to hold that momentum going into this finals, then we could see some of these guys in the top 5 easily.
Well, and I do want to talk about this for a moment. You may be seeing a lot of East and West players here in the top 12. That's because the servers combined, baby. It's all NA action for you. So no more NA East, no more NA West. It's just North America here on this competition. Now, let's go ahead and go over to Qualifier 2, because Qualifier 2 is a bit of a different story, right? A lot of the heavy hitters qualified through on Qualifier 1, making it a little bit different here for players to compete and qualify through here in number 2. And of course, one of those notable names that didn't necessarily qualify through number 1 was NPen here, Lash.
That's right, NPen, the absolute reigning champion from Zero Build back in February like we had discussed. But NPen has pretty much improved every single solo Collegiate Cup by almost a 10% radius each and every single time. A little bit of a falter back in November. However, during those participating qualifiers leading up to this point now to this qualifier, even if you look back into the last season where he had 6 total solo victory cash cup wins through finals lobbies, which was a total of $600 in those lobbies, NPen is putting in the work through Zero Build.
That he is. But look, this is not Zero Build anymore, so NPen's gonna have to step up to the plate. But of course, we already know him, one of the seasoned veterans here in the scene, definitely has the potential to do that. One last player we got to talk about is Pars, a West pro, just absolutely dominating here, getting into the top 12. I'm surprised to see him so low on this leaderboard, but I think that's not going to be the lowest number we see for him when it comes to today's competition as we get ready to unfold. But we got to talk about some other things that come up here from these leaderboards. So obviously, if you don't know, there's a lot of action in the qualifiers, and unfortunately, or actually fortunately, the best place to watch all that action is on Lash's channel, because the man does viewing parties for the qualifiers. But we've compiled the top 5 plays from both qualifiers for you all to check out. Look at this. Of course, incredible plays there. And that is just the top 5. Imagine top 10, top 20. I mean, just so much incredible action taking place in those qualifiers. So make sure to check out Caster Lash for any of those future viewing parties. You know the man's already doing it all the time. But we got to talk about some different things. Now, we need to talk about the story of champions, because this is not the first finals we've ever experienced here in the Collegiate Cup. We've had multiple Collegiate Cups in the past, which has led to multiple champions. And of course, our boy Lash is going to break them down for you.
That's right. So we have 4 total solo Collegiate Cup champions competing here today in the finals. Now, 2 of these you see on your screen right now. We have Moo and Cut, both residents of the what was NA East region, but now we're on NA. It's time for the big boy action, and what better action here from Moo and Cut. Now, Moo, we take a look at that left side of the screen here, won the October Solo Collegiate Cup Finals, but he's only made it to 2 out of the 5 total Solo Cup Collegiate Finals that we have seen, and he's had a grand placement of an average of 5 throughout those 2. So we know when he makes these lobbies, he shows up, but he shows up winning with 2 victory royales throughout those 2 finals. Now, with an average elims of 2.9, I'd say that's pretty impressive, but take a look on the other side of the script. You have Cut, qualified all the way back almost a year ago and won the April Solo Collegiate Cup Finals, and he's made every single finals since then.
Wow.
He's 5 out of 5, but an average placement of 33.6. Unfortunately, has not been at the top of the game since his victory back in April, but I believe this time around, it could very well be a flip of the script.
Yeah, I can definitely see it. I'm going to be honest with you. Cut is coming back for vengeance. We've seen it in recent play. We've also talked about it last few months. He's definitely on a comeback streak. And of course, his win was last spring. And where are we at right now? It's spring. So if you can imagine a time for Cut to come back and win it all, sure enough, it would be today. Now, we need to talk about a little comparison. Because like you mentioned, there are more champions competing today, Lash.
That's right. We have 2 more story of the champions here, as 2 of our 4 we've already covered. But now we got to follow up with the other 2, and we got to talk about an NA West hometown here of Commander K. Won the November Collegiate Cup Finals in solos on the NA West region and has made 3 out of the total 5 that have participated on NA West at an average placement of 12.6. Commander K has been putting his stamp in solos on the NA West region since the very beginning, and now this is his time. However, when you got to go against somebody who won the November Solo Collegiate Cup, Bryson, this is a player you do not want to mess with.
Oh, not at all. Tragics absolutely dominates when it comes to the Fortnite solos. I mean, just look at all of his stats right there. Average elims to 2 victory royales. Average finals placement was 11th place. I mean, so much going on for Tragics that he's going to give Commander K a run for his money and everybody else, to say the least, that's on the map.
Definitely, and after that dominant performance from running away in the final game of November Solo Collegiate Cup, Panda, I think he could have a good chance of winning today as well.
You know, and there's one thing that I think you guys are forgetting to mention when it comes to Tragics. His best FNCS placement was with a charge shotgun in hand.
Oh.
And what has returned to the game? The charge shotgun through an augment. So you best believe that's going to be the main augment for Tragics to pick up here today, because when he has that charge shotgun in hand, Lash, he doesn't get stopped.
He does not get stopped, indeed. Brings the power, brings the pressure. We know Tragic's an absolute veteran in the scene, and he's going to bring it at every single step that he takes.
And you know what? Look, that's our stories of the champions, but we got to talk about how all of these players can potentially walk away as a champion in today's competition. And of course, the best way to do that is go over how they should play the new mid-game and the objectives they have to focus on.
What's up, Fortnite fam? Chapter 4 Season 2 Competitive is upon us. So let's break down what you need to expect today during the mid-game objectives in the Solo Collegiate Cup Finals. Objective number 1 starts with the 3 major POIs of Mega City, Brutal Bastion, and Shattered Slabs containing the return of Volts. But you may be wondering, how do you obtain this dominant Volt loot? Well, at the beginning of Second Zone, 3 NPCs spawn at each POI with the boss High card, which contains the new Mythic Havoc Suppressed AR and the Volt key card that gives you access to the return of the 200 pump power with the Mythic Havoc Pump Shotgun. However, Objective 2 starts with the appearance of Zone 3, where the combat caches spawn in the most populated sections of the island. These new loot patterns vary in rare, epic, and legendary, and the quicker you get them, the better your loot will be. Finally, Objective 3 spawns during the 4th zone reveal called POI Riftings, which contains a capture point that you'll see at all named locations, but this one has a twist. The Mythic Pulse Rifle, the only one of its kind on the island, and you bet competitors will be battling heavily for this pack-a-punch weapon. All of these will play an integral part in the competition during the mid-game, and you'll have to keep an eye out for all of those legendary slurp juices that are obtained by these powerhouse players. And well, let's find out how it all unfolds right now on the Battle Bus for the Collegiate Cup Finals. Beep beep!
I mean, look, so many changes here in Chapter 4 Season 2. Lash, thank you so much for breaking those down, because it's really important to go over before we get into this competition. Because remember, this is one of the first major competitions here of the season. So this is going to be the first display of some of those new mid-game objectives that you're going to have to focus on as we break down these games. Now, we got to prepare to get into it. And we got to break down a little bit more in depth what these mid-game objectives are. Lash, talk to me about a few starting off.
That's right. We got to start off from backtracking of the video, and we got to start with the POI Rifting. Now this, like we had discussed, comes in at the 4th zone coming through with a capture point, which allows you to get that Mythic Pulse Rifle. However, considering this is solos and it only spawns in one per teammate, there's only one on the island. Think of it similar to a Mythic Midas drum gun, if you will, because ultimately that's the pack-a-power punch that it delivers, especially in those end games where you're box to box. You got to make a quick refresh as soon as possible, and with that kinetic blade, these players are going to be fragging out with it.
Yeah, they definitely are, but Bryson, that's not the only mid-game objectives we got to focus on today.
Yeah, kind of, Lash just brought up Chapter 2, Season 2, which was one of the first seasons where we got to see vaults, which has now made a big return this season, as there are 3 vaults placed around the map. And the thing is those 3 vaults give some heavy loot. Now, you aren't able to get into them until after that 3rd circle, because that's when the high card boss appears. It's not something that's just there right when you drop into the game. So players that are able to dominate a POI are still gonna have to wait around a little bit, which I think can add a little bit of spice to the game, because that allows for other players to kind of, move in from the sides and maybe find those picks that they need and grab that key card before anybody else. But inside those vaults, you have slurp juices. You have the mythic Havoc pumps, which is the only weapon in the game right now that can take you from a 200 to 0 health. So having those in endgame right now, especially on quick box fights and movements, we're going to see some people go down fast. And it makes me feel like old Fortnite again with just having a pump like that back. And it's going to be so awesome to see just in solo events.
Well, look, you just talked about the importance of some of these POIs. Let's go ahead and dive into the drop map so we can talk about where some of these players are landing and which ones might have advantages. And sure enough, I got to start with Brutal Bastion. If you focus in there, remember, this is one of the vault locations. And of course, our boy Tragix, like we just talked about, is going to be landing right there near the vault.
Listen, NPen and Tragix going head-to-head against each other for the vault. Now, for Brutal Bastion, it's considerably known as one of the POIs since the release of this chapter to be a little bit more of a elongated fight. So this could very well come down to a tooth and nail battle between these two players, where players all around we see double contested right above what would be considered Queasy split from last season of Pars versus Ren. Here, they could easily start to tread their way in alongside Lonely Labs, as well as the split right above it. This could be a very, very big contested POI, not only off spawn, but directly after it.
Yeah, I definitely got to agree with you. But one competition that we recently saw had Queasy winning it all from a certain POI here on the map. And it looks like none other than one of our previous champions, aka Cut, landing at Kenjetsu Crossing. Now, this POI is definitely set up in an interesting way. It's obviously the furthest southern point of the map. And for Cut, he now has a pretty clean rotation through the waterways on either side. Plus, with the kinetic blade, he can easily move through any of those areas. But Bryson, what is one POI you're going to be paying close attention to, and why?
I'm kind of looking at Shattered Slabs right now, mainly because like what we just talked about with the vault being there, and there's 4 people landing at that spot. I mean, that's 4 players that are going to be fighting end to end to try and be the last one alive. So when that third zone happens and the high card comes, they're able to grab that vault. And alongside that, we have players like Zax and Danny on the outside. Like I talked about, how people can easily just wait for the havoc to happen. And then when there's only one player left, they can kind of swoop in and clean up. So I think there's going to be a lot of action that goes down at Shattered Slabs, but it's also an interesting spot just to say, because we're talking about Kenjutsu Crossing and the whole new area. And what do they have there? They have the blade. They have the kinetic blade, which solves for a lot of different rotation issues. We have somewhere like Shattered Slabs where it's going to be a lot harder to find something like a kinetic blade to go forward with rotation. So these people that do wait it out there, grab the vault, and do have crazy loot like that, still might have a difficult time rotating in towards the map later on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's a good point to bring up. But one other POI I want to cover before we get into our predictions, of course, is Slappy Shores. We saw teams win out of this POI in previous seasons, or in this past season, and it obviously be one of the best spots to drop, especially in solos. Now, we got 4 players in Falcon, Kai, Capo, and Frost, all landing at Slappy Shores, competing for their percentage, let's just say, of the loot. Now, honestly, I don't see this going one way or the other, so it's definitely going to be a competition we have to watch off spawn, because that's going to be some serious action to start these games. But we've talked a lot about these players. Let's go ahead and break down some predictions and talk about who we think is going to come out on top here in March's Collegiate Cup. Look, I'm not going to give a prediction because it would just give away who's actually going to win the competition. But of course, let's start with you, Lash. Who do you think is going to win it all?
All right. You putting me on the spot here, and I'm going to go with the biggest shining bright player we've seen throughout the NA East FNCS back in last season, and I'm going with Brycix. We saw him on the drop map there, uncontested on the gas station split just above Kenjutsu Crossing, and he's going to be looking good, prioritizing those hollow chests with the keys, as well as the Keymaster Augment. Brycix looking good, especially like we mentioned over that last season's FNCS performance. We know he's a beast at solos. He's coming in hot.
He is, but Bryson, now it's your turn. Who are you picking?
I'm going to have to say Moo. He is our October Solo Collegiate Cup winner, so already we know he has it in him. We know he knows what he's doing when it comes to solos. Now, let's look. If you look back at the drop map, he is at a heavily contested spot, and it's not a main POI either, so the loot there is going to be sparse. So that's where it's going to be weary, but I do believe Moo is going to come out on top probably almost every game, so I'm excited.
I'm excited too, but again, I'm not going to give my prediction, and we're just going to go ahead and cut over to our incredible casters to give their predictions before we get into game number 1. Gompers, Ben, take it away.
Thank you so much, Panda. I appreciate it. A fabulous pre-show about to kick off. All the action. Gompers, have to say, sitting back behind the scenes, watching this pre-show roll through, the anxiety's building. I'm excited. The hype is there. There's so much on the line today. $25,000 up for grabs for the solo finals. And we're here, 2 qualifiers down. We're at the finals. But we have to go through predictions, obviously. The desk did it first. Let's go ahead and round things out. Gompers, please, by all means.
I mean, of course, listen, my prediction is going to have to be NPen. I feel like even with the new drop spots, NPen did not feel like they had to kind of divert over towards whether it be Steamy Springs, Mega City, whatnot. They kept themselves pretty well situated in Brutal Bastion, and I kind of respect that, honestly. They tested it out down in the qualifiers. They didn't feel it, and they're back in their original spot.
Yeah, I mean, consistency is key, right? If it's worked before, why switch things up? They're definitely a valid pick by all means. Of course, NPen. I mean, we know NPen. Like, come on now. we know NPen, the Trio Collegiate Cup champion, time and time again. I mean, he's that guy in the collegiate scene for sure. But somebody new. We haven't seen some repeat winners here in the past, so I'm going to try and switch things up. Going to be predicting Busa this time around, representative from Akron. Cut, of course, being another player coming out of that university. So I think Busa placing 3rd out of qualifier 1. Spoke to him a little bit before the show earlier today. Seems really confident with the new meta, with the new Havoc weapons being in the loot pool. Just really, really confident. One of those players you see a lot of the times try and lead a little bit more towards the placement side of things. starting to rack up those eliminations. That confidence is there, and I think it could pull something out big as we move in. I mean, games will be going on in just a moment, but before we get in, we can start to speculate, right? Just a little bit how these games are going to go. We're going to have 6 games. We're going to have 6 victory royales dished out to all these players. And we see, right, 2 qualifiers being that main difference from these past CCA events that we've seen go on, right? These past Collegiate Cups usually being that one and done to qualify into the finals. This time around, giving 2 chances. So a lot of those players that might focus a little bit more on the placement side of things and qualify out of qualifier 1, then go to qualifier 2 and have to pick up more eliminations if they want to try and compensate, right? These lobbies aren't quite as stacked. That top 50 players already qualified through. So you have to get more aggressive. So you see kind of a little bit more of a balanced lobby when it comes down to things as far as play styles.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to see a difference in play styles, though I'm not going to lie to you. You know, obviously with the katana coming in, being able to either get away from fights or move yourself in at a faster pace, those are things that I feel like are going to play out very, very big towards that late game. And, you know, we've seen some of it already down in the calls. And the biggest thing that I've noticed is a lot of players that tend to pick those fights are actually now running away from them. And even so, down in those late games, rotating a bit faster up towards the center of that circle, of that zone, and also pushing themselves up to the sky, or up towards the sky a bit more to avoid taking those low ground fights. So I don't know.
We will find out here, though. Game number way of the Collegiate Cup solo finals are underway. We'll have to see how things will play out. Of course, you mentioned it, the kinetic blade going to be that key item most of these players are fighting for. And to do so, they're going to have to look towards this bottom right corner of the map. Cut being one of those players, landing over here near Kenjutsu Crossing. Plenty of kinetic blades to go around, so it will be interesting to see a little bit of contestation going on here towards this POI. Very popular as far as the drop map goes, but Cut looking to line things up here early on. He's been a Collegiate Cup champion in the past. The first one that we've had. Such a solid player, qualified 5 out of 5 finals. Looking to repeat here and show everyone he's still one of the top performers in the space.
I mean, definitely looking to continue to make a name for themselves, but I'm heavily surprised. This was a very, very big point of interest there for Kenjutsu Crossing, and we're not seeing it this time. Feels like a lot of those players started to rotate maybe towards Mega City, instead trying to find that loot. Then again, right, those volts that we talked about before, that's also a big reasoning as to what could have changed.
Big influence for sure, but Lonely Labs doesn't seem to have changed much. That POI we've seen in seasons past, generally contested 1 to 2 players max, especially when it comes down to solos. Good amount of loot, nothing crazy, just something a little more secluded for those players who want to guarantee they're not going to have any issues off spawn as we start to see these first group of players start to fall. Assassin, Stompsy being the first ones to exit game number 1. Jacuzzi being on the upper hand here, picking up those points. 2, in fact, looking to rotate away, try and loop back up. Spoodle will fall on the feed as well. I know that being a player that you kept your eye on and spoke a little bit about.
Yep. Behind
the scenes. I mean, please, so many new players showing out in these 2 qualifiers, which I love to see, right? I mean, more collegiate gameplay, the better, in my opinion. But we see so many new players showing out.
Yeah, and it is interesting too, because you know, you talk about Spoodle, the last winner of, you know, the qualifier, seeing as they did get that first place spot, and I was like, who the heck is Spoodle? Like, I haven't never seen this guy's name, and it's interesting too, because then I also got a different feel for their play style, and it was very, very different compared to what I'm usually accustomed to of those really aggressive fights. And you know, I do feel like Spoodle, I mean, might just make some numbers here. They're not the type of person to want to fight heavy fights, quite honestly. They're the type of person to sit back and try to make sure that they can keep themselves nice and tight, but already keeping dry here. Kai's trying to get themselves out of this situation, making sure they can keep themselves alive as well. Already fighting for some control, but losing it real quick.
Losing the materials as well. 1 build left, but the third party starts to get involved, buys Kai the time to pop the minis. 0 mats left. It's going to be Capadonna, the one put the pressure on. So down to 4 HP. Kai has to try and look for something. With only the Maven shotgun in hand, does not really have that big clutch potential that they're looking for. So a disengage will have to be chosen instead. But Capadonna wants this. These early points in game number 1 is exactly what you're looking for, not just to get a lead on the rest of the lobby, but to boost that confidence. And you hear it already. Kinetic Blades going off. Not going to let him get away, but Kai slips through. The clutch Capadonna finds themselves a couple of veggies here, some cabbages to heal back up. Just trying to lay low.
And there's nothing for Kai right now, quite honestly. He knows that there's so many people surrounding him right now down in Slappy Shores. And Shores, yeah. But he has to keep himself under cover, as one peek could honestly be the end of his life, trying to get some of those heals down. But Muxu switching on over, right? That collection of loot that we're looking at, pretty heavy here. It really does feel like, I mean, right now, obviously in those early stages of the game, it is all about getting yourself to a point where you feel comfortable down in the mid game, down in that late game, to pick some of those aggressive fights.
With a loadout like this, I'd be comfortable. Absolutely. Get your hands on an epic variant of the Red Eye paired with that the rare variant of the Havoc shotgun. I mean, couldn't really ask for much more, but we have to kind of check in here just a little bit. Nevify splitting this island with Crisp, another front runner in the space, seems to have left them be for now, but Nevify trying to take a fight with another player, Moondezo, who's now on the back foot. Nevify only has this Maven shotgun, doesn't really have that big one pump potential that everyone's looking for here with the Havoc shotgun, but if anyone's gonna make something work with it, it's gonna be Nevify. Dezo tries to close a little bit of distance there. Some tags are off. Just refarming as he takes their time here. The chug splashes will be used to heal. No one really taking any sort of massive advantage quite yet.
Yeah, right now, too, for Nevify, he doesn't have enough mats to actually pick up that high ground, so he's going to have to settle for the low. Make sure Moon tries to fight for some of that control, but Nevify, smart enough to know and understand the situation at hand, does have a lot of heals left as well, so if something goes wrong, can be able to back up, at least have enough mats to build another base down there. But keeping themselves nice and quiet.
Laying low, crouching beneath. Here's some mushrooms or something being popped, those slap juices possibly on Mudezo, but wants to try and force something here. You have to start to think, right? See a third party, 2 players actually, fourth party, starting to look for tags on the Moon, but they're so far on this dead side in this bottom right corner that this fight is generally what you're looking for. You could single off a solo player back here without too much opposing pressure. This is where you want to farm that Storm Surge. You see Nevify start to connect with that Red Eye assault rifle. Able to find some extra minis as well and finally swap out that Maven for the Havoc. Would not be surprised after Nevify hearing that kinetic blade. It really gives him that green light. See his eyes start to light up, knowing that if he gets his hands on this weapon, utility item earlier, the better. That'll carry you through the entirety of the mid game.
Getting shut out from both sides, though, is super, super rough from Nevify. Yeah, he's going to have to figure out a way to get out of this situation. Doesn't even have mats to really preoccupy themselves, so they're going to have to fight a battle here. Moondezo starting to push up on them, just down underneath, and as they slowly work it up, unfortunately getting shot from both sides. Man. Again, the biggest situation here for Nevify to get themselves out of, and they cannot. It's just going down underneath, taking that low ground spot, and hiding in it. Oh,
just
no.
tic-tac damage left and right, and Moondezo will find themselves in the box. Nevify will exit the lobby early on here in game number 1. Just not much you can do. You get your hands on a kinetic blade this early on like Moondezo was able to. I mean, you saw it there, right? Even with the third party applying pressure, the emo will come out, but Moondezo was able to kind of dip away quickly, disengage, wait for Nevify to get even more uncomfortable, and this comes right back to clean things up. Played perfectly, but a POI where players really don't have the option to play as perfectly, play a little bit more shambles-like, is going to be Mega City. Hotly contested, tons of loot, so much of an advantage if you can claim this POI, not just for the loot that it holds within, but as a location to look out upon the entire map and the options at the top of the main tower to rotate out using that airway. So there's just so many different ways to play this POI. And Medic here finding themselves that charged shotgun and flint knock combo here through the augments. Just trying to farm up and move on through this lobby.
Yeah, I mean, Medic knows, right? Everybody here is pretty much built up for success, right? One fight could lead them down the gutter, so they're going to have to collect as many mats as they can. If a fight breaks out, they're going to need to be heavily prepared, especially as they start that rotation coming out of Mega City into quite possibly the next area of interest for them right now. But Zach switching back over, right? Shattered Slabs. I mean, not too heavily contested here, but does seem like, I mean, a fight just broke down. Zax is going to try to get some of that loot left over in that vault. Not so sure
a bad
as to...
spot.
Yeah, they're hiding. I mean, they're enjoying themselves.
Couple of gold bars left behind. Just post up, wait for a player to rotate through. He's got some extra shields, some chug barrels. So not in a bad spot, but we do have to tune in quickly with the player that we all know Hydra sees in first place out of qualifier 1. Looking to repeat here in the finals, but taking a lot of damage, a lot of pressure. Is now taking the box fight, returns on the double-headed through the top, but did he bite off more than he can chew? No, will shut down Pressed. So there's the refresh. The third party doesn't look like they want to get too hands-on here in game number 1. So Hydra will take that elimination and the refresh, finds himself a little bit of a pizza party here. Heal back up. Nicely done. Just a couple of players. Everyone trying to start to settle down, take care of their Storm Surge, whether it be taking a box fight or on the flip side, claiming a building atop Mega City like Cut and Sap Games here, using these red eyes to pick players out, rotating in the distance.
I mean, hey, we all know what's just as good as a pizza party, and it's a pool party, right? So at this point, it seems like they're right on par with the theme. And so far, keeping themselves preoccupied, just watching around to see who is coming down into this zone and who's going to be relaxing. I mean, it feels like a lot of these players really looking towards that high ground. I haven't seen any usage of, any special abilities like the katana as of yet. Seems like Cut, though, it's still peeking down over. The biggest thing is, we've come into a spot where it really is about trying to get yourself situated and make sure you have a base that looks good. Cut is just spying and preying on these players.
Peeking over, looking for something. You see NPen pick up an elimination there in the feed in the top left onto Swifty. So their Storm Surge will be taken care of for the time being. We're now in that third zone closing section of the game where things start to cool down just a little bit. But no surprise here, NPen securing that Mythic Havoc shotgun and those legendary slurp juices already in this lobby. And what else could you expect from a player like this? Not only that, but 500 gold bars as well, so has the ability to re-roll those augments if need be. But he wants to look for another elimination here. Charlie, unsuspecting, atop this building. NPen starting to take a look. And that Mythic variant going to have that one pump, that 200 damage potential to give you an early exit from game number 1.
Oh, by the way these players are playing, it seems like they're just excited to be here, especially right now. I mean, already picking out some of these fights. But there is some passivity that I've noticed. I mean, not a lot of fights breaking out, specifically right now. So many players still left in the pool. And again, partially could be because of the addition towards that katana. Not really necessarily needing to pick these fights. Also a bit scared, to be quite honest with you, because, I mean, aggression is a possibility for those confident enough to pursue it. But as that zone starts to close in, there is some comfort there for Curious.
Comfort on the edge seems to be where they thrive in the time being, but has a bit of a rotate ahead of them and a good number of solos in their path. So grabbing as much utility and heals that he can to make sure you're capped out, or trying to make their own specific rotate is going to be the name in the game. Curious chooses to pull the trigger, get a move on here. Relatively straightforward rotation, but looking to catch a player off guard. Will connect on a couple shots. Isn't going to warrant the push. Curious does not seem to care. Wants to get these fights taken care of earlier on in the game so he can just play the end game. Wants these elimination points early. Looks for a double edit on the front side. Will get it, but not able to come out on top of the gun. Comes down to the gunfight. A lot of damage dealt. Now outside his zone as it will start to close. A minute and a half left. They're Curious to find their path and new home within this zone. He doesn't want to let him go. Here's him in the bush. Just wants to lurk above.
By the way they were playing, honestly, I thought they were going to prey on them as well. They were going hard and aggressive into it, and already, as we see, not even being able to utilize some of that health there, but Noodle here, luckily enough, being able to replenish. Seems like they're still moving out towards that high ground, trying to take Curious out of a good position. They ran away. They're like, yeah, I'm not appreciating, you know, what you're doing here. I'm going to take my own time to myself.
I want nothing to do with it either, especially with the attitude and the posture that Curious is coming with right now. Really don't want any of it. He's confident in this lobby, whatever it might be to make him confident. He feels confident, which you got to respect. But we have to talk about it. POI rifting. Here it is. And Statics being the one to secure the pulse rifle. I mean, to be honest, if you're carrying the Mythic pulse rifle, you almost don't need a shotgun. It's just so powerful and has such a high DPS at short range that you have to be so confident if you can hit your initial shot that the pulse rifle is going to take care of the rest once you get into the box. But Curious, not going to have that this time around, but was able to find the damage onto Noodle Hair at some point. Wants to clean things up now, going toe-to-toe on the box. Outside of the zone once again as it continues to pull away, but Noodle Hair finds the time to heal, so Curious has to look for it, and he will be punished. Down to 47 HP, lands a shot. Will he be able to close? And no, denied. Noodle Hair says, forget this. You want to put pressure on me? I'll send you back to the lobby.
There's no way to. They were hitting their shots. They were spot on. A headshot right there would have been the elimination of the day there, and Noodle Hair would have been the one going down. But honestly, at that point, it really wasn't Angel. And the first one to get that headshot wins. Noodle here, obviously being able to replenish, having so much loot down in their inventory. They have a legendary slurps. Like, they're pretty much set to go for life here.
Couldn't ask for much more. Get your hands on one of the kinetic blades and a shotgun. And you're set up here as Buka being the one to rotate in here. Just outside, 500 above as that first storm surge threshold will pop. Won't have any issues though. Riddick's rotating on the low ground just close by. As now the rest of this lobby is going to have to exit the storm as the damage is going to start to ramp up just a bit. Connecting on some shots, but no kinetic blade of their own. Jolt 6. Just having to utilize and invest their own materials here. Not a lot of options. Trying to refarm, and so many solos waiting for them once they make it into zone, so starting to get a little bit hairy.
Yeah, it's good enough that they have at least found some heals to use down inside of the storm. I'm seeing a lot of players actually sitting around down in storm, and the damage threshold starting to take a hold as well. Plaz, unfortunately, fortunately having above that threshold, so they're going to be able to stay in here just a bit longer, play off of this so far, and avoid that fight, because, I mean, it's pretty scary, right? You're already on that rotation, you go inside of that zone, and you're getting thrown off by blue. I'm not going to want to peek that either.
No, absolutely not. Stay away. Just get your way into zone. Don't worry about it. Blue is posted up waiting for you and connecting on the shots. So utilize and use as many of those chug splashes as you can. You don't have any more minis. You got to get in. The storm's going to start to really punish you. We'll find a spot. The pressure is being applied. Riddick's will get the crack. So now they hear the panic chug splashes start to come out. Didn't hear too many either, so you have to start to imagine how much HP does this player realistically have left, but it will find the elimination and a nice refresh. That's 500 metal. Exactly what they're looking for to secure the rest of this loot and a spot in this zone. Just needs to make sure he doesn't take too much damage from Riddick's ongoing assault. But Twaddle, on the flip side of things, in a nice high ground position, but not able to find the surge.
Oh, Ziggy's getting never mind. I was going to say he was getting confident, but does confidence matter at this point? Especially when your target has already gone down and now you got nothing to work with here. Medic, luckily enough, having the katana again, and this is something I really love about it. It's quick rotations, super easy to move yourself from a certain position to the next, and already down towards the middle of that zone, being able to get a bit closer to that dead side so they can feel comfortable and not have to worry about too much. Seeming like Charlie Ho is looking for some of these fights to secure their spot down inside of this building.
And it seems only right that the first game of the Solo Collegiate Cup of the season is going to be in Mega City. Who would have thought? We'll start to really see how this new POI will affect a stacked lobby like this. Surge has already shown that it can be an ever-present factor in this lobby. But how are the buildings going to influence these players' ability to rotate? Charlie being the one to still struggle, though, on the fact that Surge is starting to tick 140 below. Doesn't realistically need much more than to connect on 1 or 2 shots with the Havoc, but needs to find a player to do so. And it might not have the ability to out-heal here. Still below, still ticking. Now the crack again. Just one player above. Just looking at him, letting him buy the time to get the elimination gifted to him. So Yo will pick that one up, but has to rotate ahead of them, so needs to loot up quickly.
The accumulation of how many players have not been eliminated is starting to get to them now. I mean, look at this. It's you can see why this might be an issue, and it's coming along. Cut is, looking at the view, appreciating it as well. Finally being able to move themselves a bit closer towards the middle of the zone, which is nice. They're kind of on the edge of that dead side versus what could be a bit too congested. I'm not gonna lie to you, it is looking scary over there. Once that rotation starts to come through, we're gonna see tons and tons of battles and tons of players trying to fight it out. Luckily enough, if you're down there and you have that storm surge, that threshold, you're gonna be able to at least fight some of that off and get some damage.
And now you see it, all the players that weren't able to get their hands on the kinetic blades during the mid game, now we're starting to suffer, right? Everyone's piling up on the side of Mega City just because that was the only safe spot that they could find before these zones started to close, and they don't have the ability to rotate towards the dead side. So you see 1, 2, or maybe even 3 players on this bottom left corner of the zone, while everyone else is left to fend for themselves, like Migo here, who you see players like Accept who have so much loot, having the ability to have the mythic Havoc shotgun, a kinetic blade, and might not be in the best position as far as the later zones or the longevity of their playstyle. Just wants to hang out in this congested area and look for eliminations, and it's paying off in dividends.
I think it is as well. Right now, though, I'm really liking what Bizek is doing. Honestly, just staying in their little hut, keeping themselves pretty nice and quiet, listening to the katana go overhead. It really does feel like an airplane's taking off. Right now, the biggest concern for Bizek is to take themselves away from whatever is happening down behind them. Make sure they can at least continue that rotation over towards the middle of that zone and keep themselves well situated. Although, biggest problem, you're hearing shots left and right. You don't know where to go.
There's the only worry at this point, if you're down here on low ground, is make sure that the player spraying your wall does not have the pulse rifle. If they don't have the pulse rifle, you'll probably be okay. But if they have that pulse rifle, they're getting in your box. If they want to take the fight, you have to take it. You really don't have any other option. But Caesar on this backside, able to find themselves a nice spot where it isn't quite as congested. Has to invest more of those materials early on. As you see, he has almost no brick left, but is alive. Not taking too much pressure, but Ranster being the one to apply pressure to the box here. Taking damage to Storm. That's Storm Surge. Looking to close it out. Caesar just knows, wants to buy the time. Ranster will be eliminated. Didn't even have to open the box. And now gets the rest of that refresh. Not a ton, to be honest, left for him by Ranster, but at least he's able to get a little bit of a top off.
Not gonna lie, that hurts a bit. Rancer was knocking at the door. Please, I need food. I can't survive in this weather. And he got knocked off. Unfortunately, Caesar was just the old grumpy man that wouldn't open the door, but it seems like it served him well because he can survive even further. The Storm Eye finally starting to move just a bit. It's getting heavy, but Caesar, again, lucky enough to have that katana. And as I said before, they're not rotating down towards the low ground. They're trying to hit the skies, trying to take the high ground as well. And Tragics, lucky enough for them, it happens.
And that's going to be the name of the game, right? Box up. Katana to the air. Look for a player on the way down. See if you can snag somebody, snag some points, snag a refresh. And Tragix has done it twice. Looking for more here. Just trying to save the materials as much as possible, knowing that we're now going to enter that 9th out of 9th zone. So not much more moving needed. Just needs to make sure you can stay up into these final moments. Sap Games, same position. Has the kinetic blade. Now looking for a way into zone, but there's a large tarp. Able to maneuver themselves around it. Thankfully, connects onto Tragix out of the air. What a shot! But finds themselves a spot on low ground.
Well, that was actually real nice. Doing some damage, trying to help out the team a bit. You know, everybody coming up, trying to get some of that damage as well. Sap, though, stuck in a really, really difficult position. Although, as I said that, pulling out the katana again. And, you know, I'm going to keep talking about it. It's the strongest item that you can have inside of your inventory. As you can obviously see, quick rotation coming up. Isaac running out of a fight in order to keep themselves alive towards that late game.
Isaac looking for it. But Bryce X, Lash's prediction here up on the high ground. A great loadout. Really great spot here. Doing a great job just trying to stay out of range of the katanas as Capadonna makes their way above. Disconnecting. What a move. Hits a large damage. But it doesn't matter. Bryce will hold on to this knowing that he has the ability to use that kinetic blade if he is chopped out. So not really a worry in the world. But Kesh, 70 HP, needs to find some sort of elimination, but shut down. Danny Badbloom the one to do so. So looking to elevate and find themselves a moment to breathe.
There is no moment to breathe, especially as the storm starts to move and the fight starts to accumulate. The eliminations going down. You got 19, which in 2 seconds ago, we had 26. You can see how fast this is starting to move. Capadonna going down as well. Ellie Williams not even being able to say goodbye to their family as they went on. You got to accept trying to fight for something. And as this fight continues, right, that 16 players left remaining is starting to look a bit scary, especially to those trying to fight their way to continue to play for that 1v1 in order to gain that victory royale.
And Bryce will fall off the high ground for just a moment, able to find the way back up, but Tragic's the one to contest. The Collegiate Player of the Year takes flight and takes height, only with Siphon builds left, but the kinetic blade have to be used to get down at some point. No extra shield in inventory, so really does not have that win condition that these players are looking for. But except on the flip side, able to find themselves a med mist in a nice little box here. Try and farm. Plaz will fall just outside the box as well. No builds left. Another player will fall. Except is gifted the victory royale in game number 1. Played to perfection. Knew what time of the game it was. Knew what he needed to look for. And was able to seal the deal. I mean, who else if except to be the one to do it? I mean, come on.
If anything, that was a battle for the heels, I'm gonna be honest with you, but well-deserved. I mean, they stocked up. They knew exactly what they were fighting for at that end game, and they made sure that they could do it successfully. Honestly, yeah, it is a big congratulations to Accept. I mean, that's a player that we've seen time and time again place into that top 10, and they deserve it very, very much so.
Definitely earned in a victory royale in game number 1. Not a high number of eliminations, but still a victory royale nonetheless. Couldn't ask for much more. But it's not our job to break down all the action. It's going to be our fantastic analysts. So please take it away.
Honestly, what an incredible game number 1. Except coming in clutch there. But I gotta talk about it. That final play from Tragix. What? The kinetic blade up into the sky, dropping down on Lash's pick, his forehead. But look, honestly, great finish of the game. Lash, break down what we just saw.
That's right. An incredible finish in the legit definition of what the environment is like. Chaos all throughout the kinetic blades and then dropping down to the low ground and an ultimate finish through the heal off. But with the win, the victory royale coming through there for Accept. Accept got 3rd place all the way back in Chapter 2 Season 3 solo FNCS, and now he's bringing it here in the Collegiate Cup. The story of the veterans is shining.
It definitely is. But Bryson, highlight one special moment from that game for you.
For me, I would have to say, and I think it was fun because we were both just watching it. We were all watching it towards the end there, and I'm starting to blank on what player it was. Lash, I remember you and me both said it when he would jumped in the air with the kinetic blade and hit that heavy shot with the Havoc pump. at the same time. Was
That's
that
right.
Neva?
It was Sap. It was Sap.
It was
Games.
Sap. Yeah. That
Sap
that
Games.
just shows how crazy the kinetic blade can be endgame. Especially with so many players just flying around with it and people hitting those shots literally mid-air. You're not safe no matter what in the end game now with the kinetic blade. But a lot still happened throughout this entire game. We saw a lot of unique plays. Just talking about Accept right there. I mean, we talked about Shattered Slab earlier with the vault, and look at it. He got the vault there, came out with some of the best loot and won the game. We saw a bunch of other players too sporting the Mythic Havoc pump and a lot of other crazy loot, which just goes to show, you know, with a new season, a new meta, anything can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen. Just like Bryce's meeting a fate that did not expect there from Tragics. But look, Cut also up there in the final moments, except of course clutching it up. But it all came down to this: the heal off. We talked about it momentarily in the pre-show, and we talked about the impact a little bit of the heal off. But here in Chapter 4, Season 3. It is probably the biggest win condition you can provide for yourself in these end games, especially with these adjustments to the zones. So I'm curious, Lash, do you think we're going to have all heal off wins to finish the day? Or do you think there's going to be some variety in the games that we get to see?
I believe we're going to see some variety throughout the end games, of which we're going to see players that want to get a little bit more aggressive in those final moments throughout the 12th, 9th kind of zones, where those initial moving zones initially start, and then continue to back that up, as well as putting that power of aggression throughout and truly wanting to get into the box, getting a little bit antsy. I mean, we see it consistently throughout solo events. I mean, we saw it in solo events just this past weekend, where players start to get a little bit antsy in those 3rd, 4th games, and then they want to get it and end it soon.
Yeah, and soon indeed, but we got to talk about the leaderboard. We got to talk about the players who might be up on top. And of course, to finish out game number 1, it is none other than Except with a win in 4 eliminations here, Bryson.
Woo! 4 eliminations. Looking at the board right now, we only see a few other players with 1 ahead of him, whereas it seems like 4 is kind of the popular mix right here. We do have Mon and Rat with a GAT in 8th and 9th place with both 5 eliminations, but 4 eliminations, putting him ahead 10 points right now. Second place, where Tragics with currently 28 points with 3 eliminations, 1 right behind. Cut and Femboy Bobby both with 27 points. Now, Cut has 3 more eliminations than Femboy, but Femboy was able to farm that placement. Going in, we have Plaz, Sigma, Frost. Everybody's kind of all the way until 9th place. Everybody's still in that, just the 20-point placement other than Accept.
Honestly, this is a crazy leaderboard with how tight a lot of these players are in points. It's very, very close. Out of game number 1, I can't stress this enough. That was only 1 game, and we're close on the leaderboard. I can only imagine how this is going to continue to play out as we have 5 more games to go here, folks. So before we get into this battle bus, before we get it all loaded up and ship it out to go for game number 2, I gotta ask, Lash, where is Zone going? Is he going north, south, east, and west here in game number 2?
I think we're going full Mega City. Bring home the theme of the season.
Ooh. Well, casters, take it away.
Thank you so much, Panda, Lash, Bryson, for that fabulous introduction, as we'll make our way here into game number 2 in just a moment. But Gompers, we saw it, right? A lot of things are left up in the air coming into game number 1, and we got to see it on probably the most interesting POI that you could ask for. Mega City being the one to deliver the winner in game number 1. But things are going to continue to pull and make their way around the island as the night goes on. As now you can hear it, the battle bus is loaded. We'll be getting into game number 2 right here, right now. Gompers, please bring us in.
Exactly what we have been waiting for, this moment right now. And we're getting to see some Kinjutsu Crossing and a bit of that new map, right? What we're looking at right now, being able to see some of the loot that you can actually pick up live. And honestly, right now for Cut, it's heals. You're going to need that, especially if you don't have weapons. I'm going to be quite honest with you.
Doesn't have too much as far as weapons, but able to find that kinetic blade early on and max shield, 1 player below. And that being Commander K. We dove into some of their accolades during that pre-show, but see if he has what it takes when we're here on the main stage. Commander K wants to rotate out. Cut just trying to farm a couple tags here. Not able to find enough to get that elimination, but able to find enough pressure to hold down the rest of Genjutsu Crossing, at least at this main building, so Cut will be able to buy their time, loot up, find whatever kind of goodies that this building will hold for them. I mean, you can see it, right? So many kinetic blades. I'm surprised this spot isn't more contested, just seeing how prevalent these blades have been in just the one game that we've seen so far.
Yeah, but as of right now, you know, looking at the success that some of these players has had before, they don't want to allow Accept to get that second-hand victory. And a lot of these players actually being able to, like, NPen, right? Making it a bit later into that game, unfortunately not being able to take that win. Gonna have to change up something. Seems like a lot of those fights being picked off, unfortunately leading to not something so big, but as the chest starts to come through, slightly trying to take it out of its positioning. NPen now getting shot at.
Couple of rounds sent their way, nothing connected. It's a little bit of a scare there. NPen, kind of a lackluster game one as far as when it comes down to what we're used to seeing out of NPen. 4 points, I'm sure, not left them satisfied, so we'll be looking for better performance here in game number 2. But Capadonna finds 11. And a triple contested north side of Slappy Shores, so looking to find any sort of extra loot that is left. Get those materials where they need to be, moving into these later zones. Again, this is Ospawn. We've seen it time and time again. We want to get the meat and potatoes, and here it is. The fights, the action. Assassin wants to take it to him. The head-to-head. Buka will fall. This time, not coming out on top. Assassin being one to do it. We saw the early exit in game number 1. Now flipping the script.
Yeah, good fight to start off as well, because now they have this entire area to themselves here in Breakwater Bay, and they can kind of just relax at this point, try to gather up some of that wood, some of those mats, to be able to bring themselves a bit further and possibly take on some of those fights with confidence. But Assassin, you know, going over towards the fight again, getting to the nitty-gritty. Swifty already getting taken down. We didn't get to see the action, but we can see exactly where Tico is standing.
Can see that there's one player in the distance, but no pressure on, so plenty of time to relax, farm back up on the back end of this battle that we tuned in with for just a moment. Again, rocking that combat shotgun, so gonna be looking to swap that ideally for the Havoc pump. As you see, Blizzro is able to find one and wants to find this elimination. Or maybe not. Maybe I spoke too soon. The kinetic blade trying to disengage or at least find some extra heals.
Oh man, Blizzro. Nothing to do. Nothing to see here. Quite honestly, just trying to get some of these shields, bring it back up. But you can see Choppa already trying to bring themselves over towards Blizzro, shooting it down. And Blizzro says absolutely not. Trying to take a bit of that domination stance instead and taking some of that fire.
Handling the heat well. Doesn't seem to be breaking any sort of a sweat. Blizzro just finds themselves a nice little safe, some extra gold. But Falcon wants to find the fight. He's looking for it. But again, it's these hotly contested POIs. It is solos, right? We saw a little bit of an increase in the number of POIs and the map size overall coming into this season compared to the start of the chapter, but still, you're going to see these overly contested spots just because of the amount of loot that's to go around and the splittability. Slappy Shores being the king splittable POI that you see. I mean, it's very easy to force players out or around this POI if you want to section things off. But when you come to these split drops, there aren't many options. Jolty being just outside of one, tries to find elimination, but stolen away. Pal being the one to do it. And now he wants to take the fight up in their face.
Losing out some of those fights, Pal. Great job on it. Taking the elimination with them as well. And this time, you know, we're seeing a bit more fights start to occur. People are starting to get a bit desperate, wanting to push themselves a bit further into that leaderboard. Seems like Tico, you know, already fighting out one, having one elimination down on the board and feeling confident to get another, and that confidence builds up some of that momentum to bring them up to Conrad. We don't even know who's going to win this fight. Who is the most dominant? And right now, as it stands for Conrad, they're struggling.
Really struggling. Sokka just looking, trying to swing a pickaxe on anything he can to see what Conrad will do. Move around, make a noise. But as quiet as a mouse, hanging out inside the cone. Sokka will disengage. Conrad will take that, at least continue on through this game, but Soji now wants to finish this elimination, has the piece control on the sidewall, but wants to try and mantle up instead. This player is so low, but third party making things difficult. Zax being the one in the box. Both players will trade the big pots. Heal up. Soji still confident they can come out on top here. Now looking for it. Trying to find some piece control. Claims first try, so still needs to get into the box, connect the shot. Just playing this very safely. But Zax is doing a great job of countering every peek, it seems like. So no one will come out on top yet.
Believing in themselves, you know, and it's one of those things, right, where with the new metas coming in, it does feel like the fights have started to go by a bit slower. And it's one of those things that is easy to avoid. I'm not gonna lie, like right now, Soji, again, moving themselves out of the way, and this is just kind of the new playstyle. It has been adapted for many players starting up into this. I'm wondering though if Soji can actually see if there is somebody trying to get that rotation in below that. I mean, as they start to get slower into this, and as you can hear there, Viper being able to listen in and seeing that out, but Silent now picking up a fight with Ackerman, and it's gonna get a bit big here, because Silent needing some of those heals to bring themselves back up.
Silence. Toe-to-toe with Riddick's a player we've seen time and time again in solos show out. And I know personally, being one of their preferred game modes, which in this day and age, you do not see a ton of players really start to hone in their craft when it comes down to solos, considering the FNCS game mode being duos. But Riddick's continue to develop that solo gameplay as the season goes on. And now looking to try and find this full-on battle with Silent, who's on the low ground. But you hear that the kinetic blade now rotating out, realizing that, you know, maybe this isn't quite the player I want to be fighting, with neither of them landing any sort of significant damage. So topping up the keg that they have, healing back up that HP bar to 100. Continue on this game. They are in zone outside of Anvil Square, so no need to get too ahead of yourself.
Yeah, not too ahead of themselves. This is great, honestly. Sokka's in such a good spot. Looking at their location, you can already see, right, once that zone actually starts to close in, they're probably within the radius as to where that zone is actually going to continue to pop up and keep themselves situated at. So, I mean, at this point, can go for a while. Cash, though, honestly, picking a fight of your own is confident in itself, but it can also mean a punishment could come through. Not going to get punished, though. He's going to bring themselves back over, not chasing a fight, which is discipline in itself.
Wants to secure the combat cache, a legendary combat cache indeed, so nice little chunk of loot here, fending off any pressure from players close by. Cash will be able to hold it here. Wilders, though, rotating away. Curious again, being the one looking for the action in the mid game. Finds 2 eliminations already, so in a great spot. Their own, the epic variant this time. Pops the big pot to get back up to 150 HP, so exactly what you're looking for. Just hang out in the box. Don't overextend. Secure some extra loot, because heals and mobility are the name of the game when it comes down to solos. In a format like this, you need to make every game count. And NPen looking to recover in game number 2. Wants the box fight here with Prime V.
Yeah, Prime V, though, finding themselves in a sticky situation right now. NPen, right? My pick. Person that I think is going to try to at least dominate throughout this whole entire tournament. Trying to fight for some of that control. The biggest thing that they do like to do is, of course, hide behind that wall and try to get themselves jiggle peeking over. Taking that left and right, trying to push forward, but it's Prime! Absolute demon!
Oh my gosh, shut him down and shut him up. NPen didn't want to give Prime the respect he deserved and decided to jump into the box. But Prime will send him back to the lobby. What a shot. And that's just to show the Havoc pump packs a punch and really is a key loadout in anyone's inventory. You have to get your hands on one for that reason right there. The ability to dish out so much damage in an instant. It's just so crucial in lobbies like this where everyone has had to work to get their spot. Everyone's capable. You have to treat everyone as a real threat, and Charlie is doing so here. Going head to head with Seika, who's now just below. Charlie wants to get in the box to end things quickly, and he will try and claim the walls, not able to do so. Does not want to give Sokka the time.
Charlie, though, still trying to find this fight. Tico, again, I said they were in such a good spot, and they are, but the biggest challenge yet is trying to find themselves out of this situation. Already finding themselves outward. You can already see building above. Charlie, though, having some heals. Again, we talk about pizza parties, but not the time. You're gonna have to continue, and it seems like Tico runs away.
Just like that, Tico will find it. But the third party wants to get involved. Almost had the full box there. But the kinetic blade coming on out once again. Now being used to claim the high ground. Wants the right-hand peek on the Abstract Falcon. Neither will connect. A 40 damage traded. Sokka is quick with it. Quick to find these little tic-tac damage there. Tries to catch Falcon in the cone, but instead will drop down in elevation. Finds the shot, and Sokka finds himself with no materials left. So needs to look for something. An old box will find that. Time to top the slurp juice. Yes, he does. Needs to give it time to tick, though. But Falcon will deny it. There it is, in the box, and the elimination on this backside of zone. Falcon knew no other player looking or lurking close by, so commits to the elimination and finds it.
Wow, they used a lot to pick that fight off. You can see it when we were moving out of that area into this one. But we got Loot Island just sitting up above, and it seems like lots of players try to fight for at least some satisfaction. But are they going to get it? That's the biggest issue, Scolds. I mean, really trying to fight things out. So many players trying to refresh themselves up as we are starting to hit a bit close into that late game. 69 players still left standing. And Scolds is one of them. Already having one elimination, so still feeling a bit comfortable into that bracket. Although trying to fight for some more. They're not getting too heavily aggressive, but it does seem like they're still wanting to fight this out. A nice shot already coming up on Lazaro. But again, lots of these players have heals sufficient enough to keep themselves standing. It seems like as the slow push comes through, it's 126. But he's gonna heal. Not even gonna try to aggress forward, knowing the amount of damage they did to Lazaro. Trying to keep themselves together, which is surprising. Not gonna push for this.
Looking for the one-for-one heal here. Figured it'd be more worthwhile to get the heals off themselves. And now you see the disengage. So that'll give Scolds the time, or at least the space to breathe, to hopefully claim the rest of this POI rifting, get their hands on that mythic pulse rifle. The kinetic blades are here. Someone else wants the challenge for the throne. A little bit of King of the Hill action going on here. Cannot claim this capture point with somebody contesting you, so Scolds is either forced to take this fight or leave it alone. But now you see space given again as you start to hear players gliding close by, just barely making its way to the tippity top, and there it is. Scolds will be the one to claim it here in game number 2. Get their hands on this mythic pulse rifle. Only one of its kind can be found on POI rifting, so such a powerful weapon in a scary player's hands for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be such a big win condition moving in to this game, especially. But still so many players left standing. I wouldn't be surprised if that Storm Threshold actually starts to take place, do some of that damage as it should. Seems like Accept, though, in a different spot this time around, not actually having eliminations to bring themselves back to that first place victory royale, but instead taking a more passive approach to this, wanting to play for that placement to continue their stride and having a lot of heals as well. I'm thinking they're playing the Storm heal game again.
At some point, it's got to be sitting in the back of your mind, right? I mean, you know how these new zones work. You know what it can come down to. And in lobbies like this, where they're so stacked and players are playing, I don't want to say scared, but definitely conservative, you know that it's a very real chance that it can happen game after game. So you have to be equipped in some way, shape, or form. Femboy Bobby being somewhat equipped in this game, but deep in zone. 2 slices of pizza and 50 HP left in the med mist. Still in this zone, not ticking too heavily quite yet, so using a little bit of time they have to try and top off those materials. Akka in the same boat, but this time trying to top off those materials with an elimination.
This is game 2 out of 6 as well, so, you know, we're not rounding about down towards later on in this entire tournament series. So these players, I mean, still feeling diligent enough to pick these fights. But then again, also at the same time, not wanting to really push themselves back down into a lower placement as of yet, because the elimination stage, where, you know, we see those players start to fight for more elims to gather those points, has not started yet. Akka still trying to find out blue. But then again, right, you know, with the playstyles of these players, it's always passive and making sure that they pick the right moment.
The name of the game, find the moment and take it. Hold on to it, don't let it slip. Akka looking for theirs, 4 points and 350 damage above the Storm Surge threshold. Will find a couple of tags here, but now the lobby is going to start to get scary, especially from this POV. You have to start to think it pulls towards Brutal Bastion. There's a lot of very tall mountains just to the north. Derpy is fishing, being a top 1. Really, he's going to have an uphill battle all the way into this zone. So many players posturing up inside of Brutal itself. So Akka decides that rather than making their own rotation and just bleeding materials on the way, try and make sure they have more than enough and elimination as they go on. But Brutal will shut them down. One of those players, Brutal, we've seen over and over and over again, especially in the last 2 semesters of competition, really be somewhat of a qualifier warrior, some high placements under their belt, but nothing in the finals quite yet. So looking for a moment to show out.
Showing out is going to be hard, though, especially right now, as that Storm Surge is active. Brutal is well above that threshold, so has the time and the diligence to really not even pick a fight at this point. Keeping themselves down just behind the Storm, so that they don't have to pick any fights as of yet. But this is a very, very heavily contested area. You can already see Xcept trying to make somewhat of that rotation over, and these players again taking a more passive approach to things.
These are the scary zones, the ones where people start to kind of grapple internally with the idea of like, hey, do I have what it takes to really play this game out, or do I need to find elimination? Because if I'm gonna get one, it's gonna be now or it's gonna be never. And Tragic's starting to need to consider that on their own. 29 points, so in a great spot, but does not have their hands on a kinetic blade yet. Hits this player for high damage as they glide through the air, but not able to find it. So start looking. I'm sure we will either see Tragix with an early exit as we move into these next 2 zones or so, or we will see Tragix pick up an elimination. One of the 2 will need to happen for the long-term success of this player. So solid rotation here, ultimate low ground. Just must be mindful of these players that are already been here, that are looking for something drastically.
With the plays right now, the biggest thing you can do for yourself is, again, trying to stay down, avoid some of that crossfire, and make sure that you're in a good position. Yo's not even picking a fight with Abstract. They've agreed that they are neighbors right now, trying to keep together a bit later into those stages. Because if they fight right now, they're just creating even more havoc and a third party that can possibly break that fight up for them.
staying very, very low profile. Yo, not even wanting to fire a single shot or even reload until just now. It was Abject Falcon, like you mentioned, basically roommates hanging out. Not having a pizza party quite yet, but they're hanging out just up on the high ground, one of the best spots you could have in this zone as it really starts to pull back north once again. Just continues to pull that direction. At one point, you have to decide, is it worth investing the materials to go early, or do you use a kinetic blade if you've got one, as now you see everyone take to the sky, start to move on their way. Derpy is fishing. Femboy Bobby on the backside of zone, struggling. But Eli, Williams, below on Surge. Mac being the one in the box that tries to take the pressure here, will not be able to come out on top. There's that elimination. Just barely enough to push them above the threshold. That's 11 above. Find some extra heals and a little bit of extra time. They still have a distance to go, and now players are starting to look because they found their new home in this zone.
Yeah, luckily enough for Ellie Williams, just enough is enough as of right now, especially with where we're heading. As that time starts to deplete, you can already see the zone is going to start moving, and that's where things start to get a bit risky. Noodle here up above, getting some of that damage threshold as well, having to pop their legendary, and that is going to probably be the downfall. I mean, once they pick that fight off, what else are they going to have to heal? The shield being the only thing left. Those minis to suffice for now.
Ooh. Still below, really scrambling here, looking for something, anything, an opportunity into the box. 160 HP, will find one, stolen away by Chris. So Noodle Hair still looking, has so many materials and a kinetic blade. Needs to flip the switch, needs to get into zone. The slurp juice is not gonna save you. You have to get a move on. Go as fast as you possibly can. Finds them a spot in and a little bit of time to let that continue to heal them back up. But Abstract Falcon, quite literally, the bird is taken to the sky and is now up on the high ground. But as Crisp is in the box, will get taken down by Willers. So mid ground is popping off right now.
They're always doing good. They're always popping off, Will. Moving a bit further, trying to get into those front lines, but Texas sees it, is going to try to pull together another victory, but unfortunately for Will, we're going to see they're stuck inside of their own world. Isaac, though, getting some of that damage threshold as well. As the storm continues to move, it gets harder and harder as it goes for a lot of these players. And as it seems right now, tons of these players as well trying to avoid these fights, trying to just move in with that rotation, play the late game. Ooh. And Bisek stuck, having to try to fight for some of this damage.
We'll find a little bit, getting them 68 above, but taken down. K-Burbs to be the one to do it. Finds 2 eliminations there, nicely done. Couple of materials, but still needs to utilize their own blade to get into this zone. Down to 20 white HP, has a little bit of pizza there. He wants to try and heal back up as now you see it, but it's gonna be Moo. Nonetheless, who would you expect taking the high ground from Falcon, who's up here pressuring down his SMG, this twin mag SMG, and the Havoc shotgun. No one's trying to contest. Just hold on, burn these materials out, make it into these higher placement regions before you have to worry about it. But the misstep, Moo swings the katana the wrong way and falls to their elimination.
Oh my gosh, this is super unfortunate. I mean, already seeming like time and luck is not on anybody's side this time around. PL might just have to be the player to try to take this victory. I mean, as it seems, though, Pal shuts it down. Absolutely not, Gompers. I'm telling you, no. And they keep going. This is it, the moment we've been waiting for. The Victory Royale winner, but the top 16 needing to go down. Pal getting a bit too hasty with it and shut down immediately.
I love the sharp contrast from Pal to Ranster. So much velocity, but now put towards a passive way. Ranster will find a spot in the zone, but shut down. AV Silver, the one to do it, finds their 3rd elimination. The Slurp Juice is already popped trying to heal, but it's pulling over these mountains. You really have to decide what is worth it. Are you gonna try and go up and around and get a solid spot on the front side of zone, or are you gonna battle your way through the mud? Try and find those eliminations while you have the little bit of mats left. or look for the placement, the victory royale, but Silver will dodge down, trying to buy a little bit of time. With that slurp juice pops, we'll find an elimination. There's 50 Siphon. Another player drops through. Rat with a gat, taken down. AV Silver steals away the victory royale in game number 2.
You can, I just can't, I don't have any words. At this point, I really thought Pal was gonna run away with it, but getting too aggressive, especially in the top 16, is going to put you down further than you think it will. At the end of the day, though, honestly, a great victory royale coming through, and I mean, right there and then, right? You saw it, the 1v1 taken, we finally got to see a site erupt down in that 1v1.
Yeah, didn't go to a hill off this time around. We got to see the final moments, the final shot sent their way. And it's crazy, the change in zones, right? The games seem to end so abruptly, but it's at a moment where they earned it. AV Silver dropped to low ground, fragging out there. I think 3 eliminations in maybe 3 seconds. Such a solid showing. Congratulations. But we're not the ones to break down all that action. It's going to be our fabulous analysts. So please, guys, take it away.
Thank you so much, Ben. Honestly, incredible finish there to game number 2. And if you don't know, AV Silver is actually one of the few solo FNCS champions ever. So to see him show up in spectacular fashion here in the Collegiate Cups is always great to see. But Lash, AV isn't the only one we got to look closely at in that game.
That's right. We saw Except coming away from being in first place all the way coming into this game after a victory royale in game number 1, showing up all the way up into 9th place. So he's definitely one to look out for, especially holding up to that top spot.
Yeah, I mean, look, Except is definitely going to try his best to hold on. I know Cut was there in the final moments as well. But for Bryson, who are you looking at?
You know, I want to talk about a few players. First off, with my prediction, we were looking at Moo, who made it to, decently far into that game, someone we haven't seen on the leaderboard yet so far.
What happened to Moo there in those final moments? I figure we should probably talk about that.
We should, and I think Lash should be the one who was the first to notice, should be the one to talk about it.
Yeah, so for those of y'all that saw the end game there just a little bit, Moo was popping off. He had the great positioning. It was looking good heading into the end game. But then all of a sudden realized, okay, I got to drop down from max height. Realizes, hey, let's utilize the kinetic blade. But for those of y'all that don't know or even just saw the new patch of 24.1, you now cannot avoid fall damage from utilizing the overall slice and dice of that kinetic blade. So Moo ultimately went down to fall damage without even realizing it.
Yeah, it's a tough way to go out there in the final moments, especially for the prediction of Bryson. But honestly, with the way that AV cleaned it up here in the end, it was still as exciting as ever.
Oh, exciting to say the least. I mean, we're seeing some interesting end games here, especially with this one right now, going on that elevation change with those mountains and then utilizing the kinetic blade. I mean, we've already talked about it with last game, where how so many people are utilizing that kinetic blade, but to have such a swift elevation change like that, and you saw it with AV too. I mean, he had the blade on him, and so did multiple other players around him. And it gets to a point in those, 10th, 11th zones where it seems so chaotic at times because everybody's just zooming around, going up and down with that blade. And then once people find each other in those little moments right there, that's when they get those shots off. That's when they have those big moments. And AV Silver, he capitalized on that and came out victorious.
Yeah, he did. And honestly, a great victory for him. Again, I can't stress this enough, one of the few FNCS solo champions ever, because solo is not a typical game mode for FNCS. So cool to see him competing here today, but we got to dive into the leaderboard, see who's up on top. Will Except be able to hold it down? Will we see a new challenger take the top spot? And sure enough, it is Except still up at the top, but only by 6 points.
6-point lead is incredible right now, though, for Except. Considering the 2 point per elimination here, it's definitely a little bit easier of a lead, especially considering we don't exactly see that many eliminations piling up. Usually by this time in old formats, past formats, you'd see elims for players racking up towards that 10, 15 even through the first 2 games. But you obviously see here in our top 12 that the most is only 8, and that's by probably one of our most known fraggers of PAL down there at 11th place, where we're definitely realizing this season a bit of a slow pacing, especially with those kinetic blades.
Yeah, definitely a different style to the game in general. I don't even think it's just necessarily a pace. I mean, look, the way you have to play these games is very, very different than what we've seen in the past. So interesting to see how this is going to continue to play out. But of course, you got to talk about it. Except Rat, AV, Tragics, Cut, Sap Games, K-Burbs, all notable names who find themselves constantly at the top of the leaderboard here in these Collegiate Cups. But I want to say this, Cut coming through very, very consistent. Not a ton of eliminations. I mean, still decent as far as eliminations go on the leaderboard, but you can definitely tell he is focusing solely on the end game, letting those eliminations come to him naturally and not forcing anything. So this is a good game plan here from Cut, and I'm hoping that he can maintain that going into the next 4 games. Now, we're almost at the halfway mark here. We've seen 2 games down, 4 more to go, and this is the point where if you were making mistakes, like in NPen, and I want you to talk about this a little bit more, Lash, if you're making mistakes and you're going down early, you have to make the game plan changes now, because these are the last opportunities to put some serious points on the board, Lash.
It's all about that realization of these new zones, the constant shifting and exactly what you need to do. Even though we saw NPen with that mythic Havoc Pump shotgun from Brutal Bastion, he unfortunately went down. He got a little bit of a taste of his own medicine with that big Havoc Pump 1 pump.
Yeah, that he did. But honestly, I'm curious what's going on here with Bryson. Bryson, what are your thoughts there on NPen not necessarily getting his stride there in game number 2?
I mean, NPen's someone we see play so consistent in previous tournaments, especially in Collegiate, and even in other big Fortnite tournaments too. So seeing him kind of lack in these first few games is somewhat surprising, but also he's a player too that knows how to make that comeback and doesn't normally let that kind of stray on him. So I think there's an expectation here, and I think there's a solid chance we're going to see him come back. So.
Well, here's our chance to see it come back. NPen, it's your chance. Game number 3 is now.
Just like he said, game number 3 is here and now. It's already underway, Gompers. We skipped us right into the action. Why not? I mean, you guys don't need to see more of us. We're here to watch these players show out. And we're going to tune in immediately with Accept. No surprise there. We got to see what's going on here in the off spawn. And no surprise to see these uncontested at a POI like Shattered Slabs. Plenty of loot to go around. No stress as far as pressure from other players. Just needs to relax and play their game.
Wondering how they got here, though, because I didn't see no battle bus. So, yeah, you know, they all probably had to walk, to be completely honest. But you know, we've seen YoGG before. They did get eliminated a bit later on into the game. Seems like, though, they're backing off quick. They saw some shots get fired, and they're not one to continue. Instead, again, looking for some of that loot to start their stride down to that victory spot. But Lonely Labs, I mean, a pretty heavily contested spot.
It's one of those spots, right? You stick to what you know. It's been here since the beginning of the chapter. It hasn't changed since the beginning of the chapter. So these players want to stay with what they're comfortable with. And to come out with a kinetic blade from a spot like Lonely Labs that we just saw Yo pick up, exactly the kind of loot you're looking for. But Prime trying to force this fight here with Yo, who's already on the back foot, not able to hold that ceiling. But the kinetic blade will come through and come out clutch as that disengage factor comes through here. I mean, you can't continue to chase and apply pressure, but the reality is if you don't have a blade of your own, you're not going to be eliminating this player.
It's not going to be easy to fight that. You know, you got to try to win out here, especially for Prime. Wow, shots are on target. Just doing an amazing job and making sure that their aim is on par. I mean, even though they were on a zip line there, seeming like right now already trying to take that high ground. YoGG honestly might have to say the same thing for themselves right now, though. They're still fighting hard and heavy. Coming up above, though, as you can already see. Now trying to break some of that wall, taking some control, and the shots are fired.
Wow, the greed. That's all I have to say. A little bit of greed showing there from Prime. I mean, took the fight to Yo. Had the weaponry advantage, did not have the utility advantage, but Yo said, you know what? If you want to force it this bad, I'll take it to you. Was able to come out on top. Congratulations hold down the spot for one more game here as we're entering that halfway point. So if you want to make those adjustments, they need to be done now. A rat with a gap. 50 points already locked in, so a really solid number to be at this third game marker. But taking some pressure from Medic. Just on the other side now, 3 players wanting to get involved here at Mega City. As you see it, walls being broken by these grind rails, but no damage being done.
Oh, trying to at least develop their own character a bit. You know, get some of those upgrades ready. Rat, though, depending on what they've picked here in Mega City, could help them move a bit further. But we're talking about move a bit further. We're being able to see some of those fights on the outskirts of Mega City this time around, as those players, again, on the reach to that rotation, getting stopped by one another. Char, it seems like they're just trying to move out of this, but they know they need to pick this fight. Win is not going to let them go freely, and the damage is done. Finally being able to pick themselves out of the situation, but not the best bet.
And taken down by Hasbusa. Just looking for it. A nice elimination. 11 points on the board. Looking for some more tags, that Storm Surge to be taken care of. I mean, if you have the ammunition and the blade this early on in the game, no reason why you shouldn't rotate early towards some of these mountains and try and get ahead of the curve just a little bit. But Chris, one elimination already. Once another one will connect. Quick little flick there. Pick up their second on the Dwimmy. Luke will fall down to the water. Needs to take a little bit of a dip here on this far south side of the map. No other third party in sight, so tap out these materials. Spoke a little bit too soon, just outside of distance here on the mini map. One player will look, but no connections there. Crisp, one of those players, very capable. In lobbies like this, we've seen the pop-off moments in the past, but having a little bit of trouble here putting those pieces together in the March Collegiate Cup solo finals. But Moon Dezo, again, no surprise here. A mid-game engagement.
Oh, so many hopes and dreams. Moon Dezo. Elimination already coming down, and they're on the outskirts of Storm. 25 seconds left. They take a dance break. They're kind of chilling right now.
All right. We're at a little bit of a dance break, but we're on 31 points. What are we doing? Come on now. You got more work to do. You got some more work to do. You shouldn't be dancing quite yet. We got to get to zone. We got to cap out those materials. We got to find some more points. We got some things to do, places to be, people to send back to the lobby. Go, go, go. Now you see it. We'll get their own move on, but Rander, Conrad going head to head once again here, just outside of Brutal Bastion.
Oh, no. I mean, listen, you can hear the shots fired. Here's some shotgun action as well. Conrad wanting to get themselves out of that, because one headshot could just might as well mean the end of their own demise. I mean, leading them to their own demise right here, right? Flying up above, getting some of their shots fired, shots on target, seeming like they're gonna have to push themselves backwards just a bit, but up in the air, they find some shots of their own, not being able to hit any one of them, but as it seems right now, coming from the back lines, having to build up a tower to keep themselves safe and sound.
It's gonna be Mac, the one to do it. Might have lost track of Conrad there, who's on 5 HP, realizing that Mac might not realize where they are. So holding off for just a moment before popping these minis. I don't know about tarping with 3 open sides with 5 HP. I'm gonna be honest. Not exactly the go-to here. I can understand trying to save some sort of materials, but you're one shot from any weapon. Couple ticks to zone. Just pause for a moment, get these minis off. So at least you don't have to worry about it. That not be the way you want to end game 3. And we'll finally get them off. The big pot to follow. With just over 100 HP, but seen a lot of action so far. Here we go again.
Curious. right now, right here. One shot off of Riddix. I knew that would have happened. Seeming like right there and then they were feeling good about it. Now collecting some of the mats like nothing happened, and they're chilling. All they need to do, they have 1 minute and 10 seconds left. They can roam around as much as they please.
Oh, we've seen those two clash already tonight, Riddix and Curious, but Curious wants to turn it off, shut it down quickly, and does so just there. I mean, come on. Just absolutely nasty. Curious being so confident in these lobbies so far. Not seem to mind how their late game performances have gone. Just knows that as long as he continues to have a solid showing in the mid game, eventually that pop-off game will come their way. But except 57 points, the Mythic Havoc, 200 pump potential, and just farming the Storm Surge. Just play her once a piece. Says, you know what, I'll take care of it, but this is Except. We know what kind of a player this is. Not someone you want to trifle with by any means.
Okay, Except. I mean, they were doing something good, something pretty clever here, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. Obviously, being able to gather up some of that loot, very, very essential, especially because we have some of those legendary slurps. So moving into this, having 2 of those is definitely going to boost their chances of survival moving a bit further. But if they pick a fight now, might just mean game over. NPen has been out in the open for days and hasn't even really rotated a bit further past that point of Brutal Bastion. So now we're going to be able to see some of that come into action right now as that zone starts to close in. And it's NPen's turn to find some of those eliminations.
These make up points in some way, in some category. Needs to start to turn up just a bit. The Willers. Same boat. And it's going to be Curious. The mid-game aggressor wants to get in your face. Down to 50 HP, so now looking to pop some chug splashes, but able to find it. The left-hand peek, forget the right hand. Willers connects regardless. And there it is. Everything you could possibly need. A little bit of upgrades in all departments. And the third party not in sight. Already in the zone. Isaac will pick up an elimination there in the feed as this 4th zone will present itself in 20 seconds. So Willer's sitting pretty. No problems. But Hasbusa, Medic, looking. Hasbusa will fall. So there's the map refresh and everything that Medic could possibly need. One of those players again landing at Mega City. So no surprise there to find that Mythic Havoc shotgun in their inventory.
Trying to find some of the enjoyment here. Medic backing off and leaving a situation that could have left them further down into that bracket. So, I mean, good off of them to be able to find themselves a bit later into this game. But, I mean, Medic has been doing pretty well throughout these past 3 games, if I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen them coming into the late game consistently. The only situation is trying to find that victory royale, trying to keep this first place right now, as it seems. Medic already trying to find a fight, pick it up as well. Breaking the tractor. Seeing if the game is going to go a bit faster, and it doesn't seem like it will.
Shield bubbles coming out. Wants to give them a little bit of space, and it'll be Kika, a player that's been around the collegiate space for a very long time. An NA West competitor showing out here consistently at the top of the leaderboards on their individual regions. So now in NA, wants to show that there's someone to be taken seriously. Landing at Mega City, possibly a little bit of bad blood here with Medic, who, again, like you mentioned, making it to endgame kind of consistently, but not really showing out in the way they're looking for. Getting overly aggressive off spawn, but no surprise there. If you want to get your hands on this Mythic Havoc, especially at a spot like Mega City, you need to be aggressive. You have to be someone that's going to posture up and push for those vaults to get your hands on it. But again, POI rifting. 4th zone is here. WYD Psycho is the one to claim it this game. There it is, the Mythic Pulse Rifle paired with the Charge Shotgun. Lethal combo, if you ask me.
The best way to at least up their chances of survival just a bit. I mean, everything in their inventory is looking pretty good. They have all 3 of the metas right now just sitting pretty and waiting to be used. But one of the biggest issues here is using it. As of right now, again, collecting some of that loot. Nobody's going down. And we're so far late into this game. You know, we're rounding up about that point where... Looking at the amount of players, but not right now. We'll look at it later.
See, as it starts to close, we'll take a look. No surprise, though. I would be very surprised if it's anything below that 60-player, 70-player mark, considering the way these games have been going so far. They've continued to stay stacked. The Storm Surge has been an ever-occurring presence. These players have to make sure they take care of that damage earlier on, as you see it now. Psycho, no elimination yet, has the pulse rifle and is already playing into their strengths, trying to spray these players with the hip fire. Granted, effective at long range, absolutely. A headshot with this pulse rifle is gonna go ahead and yield you somewhere a little bit over 80 damage per headshot at any distance if you're able to ADS, but the hip fire does so much more, almost a completely different play style. You can find the right opportunity to do so, but instead finds himself a spot in zone.
Oh, no. Okay, well, with Psycho seeing tons and tons of players surrounding them as well. Already waiting to fight out. But NPen stuck in a battle, quite possibly with Jacuzzi. And, you know, with NPen, they've continuously made these mistakes. They haven't been able to get past at least that mid game. Trying to make it a bit later into this time, but doesn't seem like they will. Getting aggressive, trying to find some of these shots, and maybe winning out a fight of their own, but it seems like down above them, there is going to be some of that problem being created.
I love Brutal Bastion, don't get me wrong. It was fantastic last season, and it's still a great drop spot here in Season 2. But you know the one thing it's missing? It's the kinetic blades.
Yeah.
You have to get your hands on it. It's a need to have. Every single game, you will not see a player taking home a victory royale tonight that doesn't have their hands on a kinetic blade. It just simply will not happen. And NPen is able to consistently make it off spawn, but not able to get their hands on a kinetic blade just because he's so far north that he's really not running into players that have them. So unless he's able to get really, really lucky off spawn and find it on some sort of a ground loop, maybe out of something, anything, a player, he's gonna have to have some sort of luck if he wants to get his hands on it early. But best believe if NPen can get his hands on a kinetic blade early on, I am sure we'll see big things from him.
Oh, big things from Ackerman, though. Again, right now in this very moment, trying to create a strategy that will get them closer to Kika. So they can pick a fight that's diligent enough to bring themselves into a very nice position here. If they win this out, they get this field all to themselves, especially in a very, very nice spot down in that zone. It will be heavily contested, but if they can win this out fast enough, they can at least keep themselves well situated under this mountain, trying to shoot down at least some of those mats to try to keep themselves and get themselves some of that damage. But a third party coming up above, of course, it's Medic. He's looking for something big here, and Ackerman won't let him.
Wants to hold down this low ground, stay quiet. Just utilizing those wood materials, not want to invest the hards, regardless of the pressure being applied to him. 2 players now involved, so trying to lay low, buy their time. No one wants an early exit at the halfway point. Solid chunk of points. Everyone here needs to push themselves higher up that leaderboard, right? It's guaranteed cash if you even make it here, but as you make your way up that leaderboard, it really starts to get serious. So you're gonna need a solid game under your belt. And Medic continues to apply that pressure. One of those players, again, making their way out of Mega City off spawn, wants to carry that entire attitude throughout the rest of this game.
I mean, Medic came in as a third party, and now they're the ones struggling with the third party here that they were trying to gain control over. And Ackerman, as it seems, keeping themselves running down below. Not trying to actually pick this fight. They're trying to keep some peace here, so if Medic wants to fight this and he loses it instead, he's asking for it. Although a peaceful situation, yeah, they're running out. They said, listen, I appreciate you for that. I'm gonna take it while I can.
capitalizing well. Moving left side up the coast. Might not be the fastest or shortest rotation, but it will be the safest in this situation. So will be chosen. We see NPen in the feed there in the top left. An early exit again in game number 3. I believe NPen might even be sub 10 points halfway through the night. Almost unheard of from a player like that. Certainly going to need an evaluation of strategy of some sort. But if we're talking about players that are capable of legendary comebacks, he's definitely on that list. So it's still someone to keep an eye on just through reputation alone. But Reform Buka. Pressure's on now. Looking to get some tags in on players rotating. Silent just on the edge. Danny Badbloom just below. Sigma as well. All having to make their own individual rotations. AV Silver, game 2 winner. Like we mentioned, Panda had during this last analyst segment, one of the few players to win a solo FNCS in this lobby right now, trying to show out that they still have something to give in Fortnite competitive.
Trying to give something back, though. It's gonna be Crispy this time. Surviving a bit later. Oh, no, Crispy. Come on, build it up. Try to keep yourselves into the game and save your own life. They do, in fact, have pizza for them to be able to replenish some of those heals as well if something does go wrong. But the way that things are looking, I mean, Crispy needs a refresh ASAP.
Definitely needs something, as do most of the players in this lobby, but Reform Buka needing a refresh as far as damage goes, 145 below. Will need to get that addressed as this zone starts to close and Storm Surge is now active. So Reform Buka now ticking. Only 3 splashes left. At this point, it's going to be worthwhile. Drop down to the low ground, start slapping on a wall, look for a box fight, whatever you got to do. You need to do it now. But AV Silver, 600 above. Complete opposite situation. Just hang out in the box and lay low. Don't let anyone choose you as their victim to be the ones they're going to farm Surge off of.
Yeah, no victims here. AV still left alive. Not going to get picked off just yet. Although, honestly, I feel like with the way things are aiming out to be, they're not even having to be preoccupied with what's going on above them because nobody knows. Nobody cares. Having the katana, try to make an opening as well so that if they want to leave, they can do just that. Although some players coming up just underneath. Sigma already moving up towards that skyline and coming down on Kika. Kika, you better be careful. I mean, there's a player here that knows exactly what you want. And right now you're wanting that elimination, but so are they.
The Sigma flying down from that height, looking for the bomb. Was not able to find it, but still respectable. Sigma, high velocity gameplay right now, looking to play with some aggression. Looking to connect shots, not finding any yet. But zone will pull up and over, so have to get a move on. The earlier, the better. Has the kinetic blade, and one player just below. So must be mindful to time this properly, but now I can start to hear it. Kika's ticking to Storm Surge. He knows. Try and find the lightning. Where is it? You know it's close. You can hear it as it starts to fall. Other players will realize that as well. Those are those refreshes that are going to be completely free, gifted to you. The game will take them out. Kika will take out Reform Buka. Caesar takes out Danny Badbloom. Now players start to fall. We're now at that 40-player mark in that 9th zone.
Putting themselves together into a bigger picture. Fighting out a ton of this, but it seems like the Storm Surge finally getting some of these players. Crispy, not having to worry about anything as of yet, with so many fights, still tons of players being eliminated left and right. Moving from 34, slowly going down quite possibly to that number of 33, but it has gotten silent. A lot of these players, now that the zone has been able to find them itself in a very nice and quiet position. I mean, the battle starts to ramp up again, and Wade is looking good.
Players now using that classic strategy. You see it, the katanas 3 up, fall straight down, try and find a player on the way. Tika will find another. Accepts in the box, finds one as well. That's their first elimination, shockingly, but still has 10 splashes and a kinetic plague of their own. The Mythic Havoc shotgun in inventory. Still the ability to bail out if he finds himself in that scuffed situation, but won't have to quite yet. But wants to start to look up towards that high ground position. One player will connect, but no one's on it. But there's so many players in the sky. Is it even worth taking? Because anyone can fall on your head at any moment.
Falling on the head, Rat still alive, and they haven't actually picked the fight as of yet. They have 0 eliminations, looking to survive themselves a bit later into the late game, and as I say, 0 eliminations, they start the third party, and Accept is still trying to run up. Bicyc was right on their tail, but slowly gets put down, as it seems right now, Accept in the best position, possibly aiming down at all of these players, being able to play in that third party position, being able to take some of their shots down up above, and as the zone starts to close in, the eliminations start to look solid.
Rat with Gat lurking in the zone. That med miss he saved for heal off, now having to be used to stay alive, down to 9 HP. Now, big chunked as well, so 19 in total. Needs time to pop these minis or the med mist, anything he can get. But there's so many players in this layer, no time to breathe. He needs to hold the shotgun out and look for something to deal onto the player. Looking for the ramp, into the box he goes. Rat with a Gat, doing a great job of running and adapting on the fly, but needs to find something, an action on it, an impact of some sort. As you see players falling left and right, Brutal being one of them. Rat with the Gat will finally find it on the Frost, so we're now just outside of the top 10. 11 players left, so we can crown the Game 3 Victory Royale winner.
Victory Royale waiting for it, right? You got 10 players left standing, and tons of them are taking that damage from that storm. Right now, AV Silver in the best position they could quite possibly be, and it seems like Pal was almost there. Not enough. And a 1v1 situation. Bicyc now left standing, trying to at least get some of these heals. They're not even close. They've run away. We're playing the healing game. And right now, Bicyc does have the lead. Maybe just a bit tragic, so eating some of that pizza, making sure to fill up their tummy just before things go wrong. And we're waiting and waiting. And right now, slowly but surely, the storm rages and it's done! Tragic's got completely annihilated, and the Victory Royale going to, I believe it's Bicyc. I mean, the way that things played out is a bit mind-blowing. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, we tune in last the moment. We see he's down on low ground, munching on some deep dish pizza, whatever it might be, just hanging out. And then Bisic's got 10 eliminations running in zone.
Oh my gosh.
He has the slurp juice and the splashes, and then the timing. It's gotta be so frustrating, right? The moment you think you have the Victory Royale in your grasp, Storm Sickness comes into play and goes down. I mean, what an incredible finish. And that's the halfway point, Gompers. I mean, come on.
I don't know how to feel. I feel like the chances would have been even higher if they had actually just picked the fight and get the elimination. They were playing the waiting game. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, I enjoy that a lot more. it's so fun to see them just wait it out. And the intensity of not even knowing what your enemy opponent is doing is probably the worst part.
You gotta love the 1v1 heal loss when everyone's on their toes, trying to do the math as quickly as possible. And as soon as you think you have an answer, boom, there's another variable and something else happens. It's so great. We gotta love it. But we're only halfway through the night, and we're gonna be going to a quick break. So do not go anywhere. We will be right back.
Facing the enemy. We prideful gladiators. Show them that they came to die. Let me hear your battle cry.
Welcome back, Fortnite fam. After just a quick break, we have game number 4 right on deck for y'all soon. But after an incredible game number 3, Bryson, I'm thinking this is going to be even more spicy.
The halfway point, Lash. This is it. This is where every player needs to buckle down and either decide to do something different, or if they think they've got what's going right for them, then this is the time for them to really show that off as we get into that 4th game.
That's right, folks. Here we go. It is time for game number 4 as we jump right in to the battle bus of our game number 3 victor of Isaac. We saw a way of 10 eliminations in the final moments, coming into this game at 61 points into the top 5. Isaac, a veteran in the scene, Bryson, and he's looking to show up today.
Yeah, landing at a decent spot too at this gas station right out of the RV park. You have a lot of metal that you're able to farm in this position. And metal can be sparse on this island, especially in a lot of different areas. You might go without finding metal at all. So having a spot to give you metal right away, that's going to play out for Isaac. But you see off in some other plays right out here in some of the newer areas, Jolty looks like he's going to be hiding, except though someone we've seen playing absolutely phenomenal with 82 points right now, who has been the king of shattered slabs. Looks like he took a few hits early off.
This is not a good spot you want to see here from Xcept. Our first place player right now at 82 points. Xcept at the moment has won each off-spawn battle so far at Shattered Slabs, has taken over the POI along with the Vault through the NPCs of High Card, gotten that mythic Havoc Pump Shotgun as well as the key card. So far, he's been able to get himself back up, but we'll have to see how this contention works out.
Yeah, Shattered another spot too that has decent amounts of metal. Now you do have 4 people landing here so far, and a lot of people go for the high card, but Xcept takes a heavy shot, only 4 health left, and goes down early. Now Lash, Xcept is pretty far ahead in points right now, so that might still be able to hold him up there on that leaderboard.
3 points, though, only ahead of Rad, second place at the moment. That is not a good point there for Xcept, falling down in the 90th place spot to the hands of Commander K, a player we mentioned in the pre-show, a Collegiate champion in his own right. And yet, at the same time, only at 2 points throughout the day. That was actually his first points coming in today, grabbing that elimination onto Xcept. Commander K now has control of Shattered Slabs.
Dwimmy right here, handling height on top of this house, while Stompy is just stomping around on that low ground, kind of just grabbing what they can. Dwimmy does have a decent health advantage too. Looks like they're just waiting. Don't want to make too much of a noise. Kind of want to make a little bit of a surprise play right here, looking for that elimination. Dwimmy does have decent heals to play around with. Not totally positive what their mat situation is, but for the moment, it looks like they're just waiting for Stompy to pop out of the house, and then they can go for that quick shot.
A shot, a whisper, anything that could go off could sound the alarms, and the same thing goes here for Buset, trying to take control of Steamy Springs. However, at the same time, he says, nah, let me disengage out of here. And that's the great part about the Kinetic Blade in this new season of Chapter 4 and Season 2, is that you have the ability to disengage, especially if you're able to get it early. However, if you're at a POI, especially in this new biome in the season, in that mega-type biome, that's where you're then able to have some contention over those Kinetic Blades, which have been the main core, especially over the season.
You know what, Lash? I like the Kinetic Blade because I think there's a balance to it. It's not something where you can just, get away super fast from a fight. It still has that little bit of lull every time you try to use it to get away, where people have a chance to shoot you, where you're stuck in the air for a second, just frozen there until you zoom off. So it makes it, in my opinion, a little bit more balanced because it allows for people that are fighting them that might have them low still have that quick second to get a quick shot off. And as I say that, T Outlaw goes down in the air trying to utilize the kinetic blade.
It's almost as if you got that telepathic movement going on right now as Lazaro picks up another elimination there. Contested doubly over here down towards Congested Crossing, and Lazaro is making best use at it. 2 limbs so far, 12 chug splashes in the inventory. Now the power of heals, we're definitely seeing it a lot so far throughout the games today, is that players are really prioritizing the utilization of making sure they get those chug splashes and get those slurp boosts.
Yeah, splashes, slurp, slaps, pizza. We got all of it in the game right now, and we have seen those play time and time again towards our end games, especially with these heal offs that we're already seeing so far today. But Akka, rotating away from a fight right here, doesn't have a lot to play around with. Does have that Havoc pump, which even the lowest of the variants there can still hit pretty heavy. So if they do need to look for that quick bailout shot, they would be able to hit it with that as long as the other person is semi-low on health and not full health. But going over to another fight right outside of the sea right here, looks like Charlie and Kesh are looking to make something happen.
We've seen this fight quite often over here towards Frigid Fog, just above Frosty Flights, or Lonely Labs, excuse me, the Reminiscent. Here is Kesh utilizing that charged shotgun from the Go for Broke augment and makes it put to use. You can definitely count Kesh utilize that knowledge, that veteranship of knowing how the charged shotgun utilizes itself and put it to work.
Yeah, great patience right there from Kesh, and that's what the charged shotgun calls for, is patience. Because if you have that patience, man, oh man, does that weapon hit heavy lash. Another weapon that you don't normally see.
My.
Wow, and he takes him out quick. And I wanted to say there, I wanted to capitalize on something you don't see as much outside of zero builds is the use of the shield bubbles. But now we are seeing that become super prominent within competitive, and it's really interesting seeing how players are starting to utilize that.
It definitely is it works well enough to seclude the fight, if you will. So for situations like this, folks, you see the players lurking around on the bottom right half of the map. But Leah realized that, said, hey, let me throw down these shield bubbles and get some protection.
Texas right here, holding the low ground, trying to get them to come to him for a box fight. Gonna say, no. I'm not playing your games right now. This is where we stand, and this is where I fight. Gonna be grabbing a little bit of metal, replenishing his health, his mats, but it looks like Silent is actually going to disengage, leaving Texas to have this whole spot to himself.
Not exactly where you want to be, though, for Charge at the moment, especially surrounded by these areas where you have much rotation with the launch pads, considering all of the Hall of Whispers just to his left. We'll see if Charge makes a disengage, and that exactly who will do. Realize the situation is a bit scarce. Tags going off on his back end, but realizes he definitely has a pretty safe path to get away here, especially in this zone where second zone pushing in, and Bryson, these new zones, they're making a big difference so far, and that is showing right now.
Oh, 100%, especially through these mid games. It's unlike anything we've ever seen in Fortnite before. The rotations are so unique now, and players have to really utilize these new styles. And you know what? I think it's the perfect season for them to add the kinetic blade, considering how different the zones are now, because people are learning a whole new way to rotate, and especially how they're playing these mid games and looting up.
That's an interesting point. You know, I haven't exactly thought of it like that. How the kinetic blades have similarly enhanced the way that these zones and thought processes work through now the new 12 zone format. And folks, if you have not seen or any competitive Fortnite since the beginning of this new season in the chapter, instead of the normal 9 zones that we've traditionally become used to over the last 4 years or so of competition, it's actually changed now to just a little bit over the normal game time that you usually see, with 24 minutes now is bumped up by a minute 25 over that 25-minute mark. And that also means, Bryson, that Storm Surge has changed along with it.
Yes, Storm Surge has gone into a very interesting variable now. We still see it go all the way down to 30 where it ends, but we see a lot of different Storm Surge values. We know we go to 78, 64, and even last chapter, or was it end of chapter 3 where they changed Storm Surge again?
Correct. Yeah,
Yes.
mid chapter 3.
So they're definitely playing around with it, and I do think that it's expected for us to maybe see more Storm Surge values change in the near future. With I think Epic is trying to really figure out what works best for these competitive players. But regardless, Fortnite is an ever-changing game. We've literally learned that so often, and the best players are the ones that adapt to that, and that the players that have learned these new Storm Surge values and use them to their advantage and just make sure they know what they need to be doing, like we talked about mid-game, so they can stay above on the Storm Surge.
And that's why we see players like Prime at the moment looking for fights. They know exactly what they need to do. They've, especially at this point in the tournament, we're 3 games in the midst of game number 4 here. And all of these players are now starting to figure out, all right, this is how the solo meta is going to be this season. I need to make sure that I can snag my early damage, especially upon these little bit more elongated rotations through the first and second zone, and then utilize that ability through those mid-game objectives, whether it be through the combat caches to be able to secure those extra heals, or whether it be through those vaults to get those pack-a-punch weapons, as well as the POI riftings. These players are now starting to get their grasp. Their feet are sinking into the mud.
Yeah, so much goes down during the 2nd through 4th zones with all these little things like the vaults, the combat catches, and then you see players like Crisp and Bizek who end up having to take on these mid-game fights. And these mid-game fights can actually really become hectic just due to the fact that the way rotation is now. And it's so easy to get caught up in these zones and then get thrown into a third party like this. Exactly what we're seeing now as Chris and Bizek are taking. But Bizek took a heavy shot from the side, not even from Chris, giving Chris the advantage going in, hits him with that. Ooh, and let's see, this might be it for Bizek.
Bizek, our game 3 victor, is now in some serious trouble against a player like Crisp, who's been aggressive all day long, and he does not want to let the foot off the gas pedal, and he goes full 0 to 60 in a matter of seconds there to find the elimination on a Bizek. Bizek, we saw crack into the top 5 after game number 3 with a massive victory royale, but unfortunately he's going to end up getting taken down by a truly aggressive player in Crisp.
Yeah, Chris right there. Beautiful control. Beautiful piece control and everything. Has decent loot to play around with too. 28 points too. That puts Crisp in a decent position to be able to move up on that leaderboard. He's still not super far up there, but he's not too far away to make something happen. So he's just gonna have to make sure he stays consistent these last 3 games and comes out of fights like that victorious each time.
Consistency is key, and we're truly seeing that here from Crisp. Now, 28 points, you may think, all right, he's a little bit further down in the leaderboards. But that doesn't go to the fact that they haven't been able to ensure that their consistency, their strategy, has stayed among the same throughout the entire time. As even after a couple off-spawn ruffles throughout the first 2 games, it's found his way to be able to make it up to this point here in Game 4.
Tragics now, top of Brutal Bastion. Gonna have a little bit of a rotate right here, but let's look who we see off to the side right there, Lash. No other than NPen, someone we've seen struggle earlier on in this tournament. But what did I say earlier? He's a player that easily knows how to make a comeback. And I know that's something he has in his mind right now. He's going to take the second half of that tournament and he's going to lock in. He's going to make sure that he plays at the highest ability possible.
Waboosh against Riddix, 2 players that have slipped a little bit down the lines of the leaderboards. Waboosh has just secured that combat cache, so he has 2 slurp booshes in the inventory to make a move, and he gets a huge shot down. Riddix now in a bit of trouble here, but those chug splashes are going to come into play. Waboosh now has to decipher off of the decision. Has the ice around him disengaged, but it looks like Riddix is a player that wants to be a little bit smarter than the bronze to now disengage and get out of the fight quickly.
Lash, I want to emphasize on those combat caches. Something new that we've seen this season. They land in after the 3rd circle's announced, and they start out with the epic rarity. And they slowly go down and degrade rarities through time, meaning players that want to have the best loot have to get to it right away. So although you might be able to walk out with the best loot, you are risking getting into a fight with multiple other players to find this. So it's one of those devices that it can really pay off for a lot of players, but it can also advance these mid games fast, as if, you know, you might have multiple people go towards one, because it shows up on everybody's map and then ends up putting like 3 or 4 people into a fight and just makes it a hectic area for players to go around to.
And that's truly what we're seeing right now. The past 2 fights we've been witnessing have been fought over that combat cache. And Pal, so far, is in a bit of a struffle, a little bit more of a waiting game. Who's able to take the little peek shots that are able to get the damage? It's Pal versus Commander K. Commander K, we saw pick up Accept early off spawn, our first place player so far throughout the day here in game number 4. He was able to pick him off early. However, this fight has gone to a stalemate between Pal and Commander.
Yeah, a little bit of a standoff right here as they're waiting. One of them wants to make a move, but neither knows which one should first. Pal has tremendous loot in his inventory right now. Would be a shame to see him go out, but Commander taking a little bit of a disengagement play. Pal isn't going to go for it either, and he's going to be chilling. Does have a player right next to him, and I don't know if he sees him in the mist there, but Pal looks like he's going right into a fight.
I believe that was Tragic's out in the distance, but we see Pars, who is just hopping into the action. This is his first game on the day, halfway through the night. He says, you know what? I've qualified to finals. Let me make sure I hop in here and show the game, show the lobby who's boss. In the meanwhile, though, has another player jump on him, and now he's in a bit of a scarce battle against Zone, against Prime VV on the other side of the wall. Riddix, though, making sure he rotates, says, I don't want a part of this fight. And Pars, though, is a bit stuck in the mud here. We'll see if they're going to be able to get out of this alive. It's going to be a rough trek pattern, though.
Pars still inside that storm, gonna try and make a play away. The only bad thing here is the shots weren't just coming from the person he was fighting, but a lot of people just looking around at the same time, and Pars realized that, so he's gonna have to play in zone for a little bit and just kind of wait and see what happens. But the thing is, the fight is still ensuing as Prime is right on him, still trying to take the action to him.
Not good looks at the moment for Pars, running low on materials, needs to finish this fight quickly if he wants to be able to come out on top, especially in this game. Needs to show the world why he did get 3rd place in the NA West, the final NA West FNCS Grand Finals in Chapter 4 Season 1. Let's see what Pars can cook up, though. The player is going to disengage, and so will Pars. Needs to get into the zone, because realizes that zone's now 2-tick. Zik zone. This is where the game-changing, momentous shifts start coming into play.
Sigma in a fight right now with Crisp. Crisp, someone we've seen already this game, playing aggressive, playing confident. Sigma, though, does have decent loot. Looking for those shots, trying to grab as much real estate as possible. Gonna be see what he can do here.
It's a 3-way battle currently, as Sigma, unfortunately and fortunately, is down at the vault. Meanwhile, folks, if you could just barely see, just take out your microscope and deep a little bit more towards that right bottom side map. You can see a little bit of a key right on somebody's marker. And that actually shows up whenever somebody has the key card via the boss of High Card. And that means Sigma can see the player that has the key card. Therefore, he knows this player on the other side of the wall has it, and he wants to seal him. He's gonna get it badly, and that he does. However, now he's got control, and this vault, this key card, is now on the target of Sigma's back.
Wow. And you know, that's such an interesting ad to show up where people can now see who has the key card, but I like it. I like it because it puts that number on your head, and it makes people it makes you realize that the stakes are much more higher than ever before, especially if you're going to be able to grab such good loot like this. There's got to be a little bit of a downside to it. And Sigma's facing that right now as Kika is looking to try and advance in and grab some of those scraps here and maybe take Sigma out in the meantime.
This is the bad thing you enter, though, when you try and push somebody who just got the vault. Sigma has that mythic Havoc Pump shotgun looks to put it to work. And he's getting in the box the same exact way that he did to the other player just 2 minutes before. He's got another opponent on the wall, gets a huge shot down. Sigma is putting fear into opposing players' bones right now.
Wow. Sigma utilizing that Mythic Havoc Pump. Easily one of the top guns in the game right now. Anybody who has it, you hear that weapon in the myths, you know they mean business. Still has his entire vault to himself, but look at that Lash. Look at that. He's got a rotation. And what else does he have between himself and that rotation is multiple different players that he's gonna have to deal with before he can get out.
And this is not good looks either, especially considering, folks, the Mega City is the most mega POI we've seen in the entire history of Fortnite in general. Therefore, with all the high sky buildings, it makes it that much more tough to be able to get out of there, especially when you are surrounded by so many top tier players. It makes it that much more difficult to try and maneuver in these kind of zones. And I believe this is the first time we get to see this new biome of zone to unfold here. So for the players that have been able to experience so far, they're gonna have a little bit of an up advantage.
Scolds looks like he was able to grab some decent loot too, probably from one of the combat caches. Trying to get in on Static, looking for quick shots, hits him for that 150, but unfortunately wasn't able to capitalize on that. Still going back, might be a little tougher than him. Statics though, goes down above him. Scolds taking on a whole new player now.
Whoa. Mythic Pulse Rifle.
Wow.
Scolds is ready to show up now, and he's showing it off. Has got all the loot in the world to make a win happen here and now. Sees the loot down, now the storm's coming in. Skulls have to make a bit of a rotation here, but look at those heals. Skulls is set up for victory, just has to get out of the eyes, the sight lines of these opposing players' lobby spray.
Yeah, you hear that weapon go off. That Mythic Pulse Rifle. I mean,
scary.
it's like an SMG almost. And that thing hits so heavy too, and the accuracy is just insane. Hence why there literally is only one on the island. And it's one of those things where you do not want to be the person that comes between another player and that pulse rifle, because if you start taking shots from that, you are done just like that. Now look at what we got here. Decent amount of players, all congested around zone. Still have some that are trying to rotate in, but 45 people alive. We're gonna see Surge going down. We still need 15 people to go down before Surge goes away.
This is going to be a rough spot for a lot of players that did not get their early mid-game damage when they had that time to stall out just a little bit. But Rat at the moment, 400 damage above. This is a player we saw take advantage of those early fights, though did not find the elimination. It just goes to show that you don't need to force a fight and force an elim to be able to come out successful. You can do it just by getting slight little tags to get the advantage.
Oh, Ziggy takes a heavy blow right there. Gets lobby focused, 62 health. Gonna have to try and hold their own, but unfortunately it looks like this might be the end for them as they are only 3 health and they go down, unfortunately, as Mutsu was able to grab the finale right there. We still see a lot of other players off in the distance as everybody's making way for the rotation. Storm Surge has gone away, is gonna come back though momentarily, as we still need to see 10 more people go down.
Tragix is one of those players that goes down as well, though. Another one of our players within that top 5, which now leaves the door open for players like Rat to be able to make a move, to show and step up. Now chooses to make an early rotation, utilizes the aerialist augment to go up into the sky and take the gliders off. But Rat now gets down into a very dirty position. Let's see if they're going to be able to get it out, though.
Rat just holding that area, looking at blue right now, taking height, just utilize. But as I say that, so are multiple other players, as height is just anyone's game now, considering that we have these swords and everybody just flying into the air. Because a lot of players have realized how to utilize that sword with those rotations, and especially this end game, it's kind of like a weird like diagonal but almost straight up rotation that players are doing, and it still sends them super far out into where they go. But Prime absolutely utilizing that twin mag, goes in, takes out Soji like it's nothing, and we've seen that already today. Prime has some of the top aim out of all of these players.
The top aim combined with the best loot is now going to be very scary for every other player in this lobby. Rat waiting for the opportunity to make a move. 46 builds in the inventory. Knows that they have to find a refresh soon, and that's exactly what they do. That's going to be massive here for Rat. 82 builds back in the inventory and a legendary Havoc pump shotgun. Now able to get to the front side, utilizing that kinetic blade. Gets up towards height and finds a great shot. That's going to be the elimination. Massive for Rat up north towards the high sky action.
Prime goes down in the midst. Charge with that mythic Havoc right now. And a Slurp. Gonna be chilling close to height, but not full height right here. Looks like he might be hurting on Matt, but Brycix right now holding a top position as someone like Texas and is in the air as multiple other players are moving around. Bryce too, though, decides to utilize that aerialist and jump off of height, while all other players are just trying to claim their feet in a spot as they rotate towards this victory royale.
Rat knows he's only gotten 1 point above first place heading into this game of Accept, and now just continues to climb. Cut, though, still in the elimination feed, making things happen up on height. Muxu down on the mid-ground layer, looking to make moves. Has that Slurp Juice in the inventory, knows that they can tank a bit of Storm, which has been massive in play all throughout the day, and now it's all about finding a safe position so that way you can stay still here in the swap zone.
This is a big game for Muxu, 21 points. If he can pull this off, this will put him a huge lead back up on the leaderboard, moving him, not lead, but moving him forward heavy. But as I say that, he does take a big shot right here. Lots of other players still running around, 17 people alive on the leaderboard. Muxu gonna utilize that Slurp, but Rat just getting in, trying to find every elimination he can as he is completely out on mats, and as I say that, he goes down, but Frost over here, Frost just trying to hold that low ground like his life depends on it, and Muxu goes down.
Pars on height, though. He's got the heals with only one chug splash. Now the question becomes, will it be enough? Dips to the backside of zone. We see Crisp there on the mid-ground layer. Hasbusa doesn't have anything down on low ground. AV goes down. We're down to the top 3 here, folks. Steez now moves in with a little bit of heals. Crisp has that Slurp Juice running, but is it enough to go against Steez? He's backing off height. Does he have the shot to connect? There it is. I don't think Steez has enough time to heal, but the heal barely gets out ahead of Crisp. Crisp, after an incredible mid-game, brings on a second, but Steez just barely edges it out for the VR.
Wow. Simply just wow. What a play by both of them, but you got to give props to Crisp, man, because that was a phenomenal endgame. Every time we'd go to him, it looks like he was just putting on heavy action. So him to get second place right there is still a solid feat.
A solid feat indeed. What an incredible way to show, hey, I'm not going anywhere. Even though coming in to game number 4 says second half, this is my half to make a big difference here in the tournament.
Yes, exactly. But to make a big difference, the people that are going to talk about that are our lovely analysts and Panda.
Oh, man. Listen, don't worry, Bryson. We'll break it down for you. We got all the action and all the info for you going into the second half of this competition. And I got to say, it's the first time getting to hang out on the analyst desk with none other than Ben K and Gompers. And I'm super pumped to get your input because you guys have a bit of a different perspective. Now, Ben, let's talk about game number 4. Let's break some things down. And let's talk about the final moment where you were screaming, oh, no, not Busa.
Oh, man, I was hoping, Busa, obviously my prediction, right? I'm not going to shy away from it, right? He's my boy, rooting for him all the way through and through. I was like, oh, Busa changed his name, has Busa today. Maybe it will go unnoticed that he's kind of struggling just a little bit tonight, but it's okay, right? We still got 2 more games. We'll round things out. Obviously, a solid showing, though. Game number 3 popped off a little bit. Solid game for him, absolutely. But again, I mean, you mentioned it, right? I was yelling at him just a little bit. Last final moments there, got down to that heal off, those final instances, chose to try and look up and spray a player to look for an elimination rather than running through old loot. Questionable for me personally, obviously a different play there, but turned out really well for him. A very solid game nonetheless.
A solid game indeed, but Gompers, what's going on here? We've seen some pretty big names continue to fall early in the games. First it was NPen, now we see Accept dropping pretty early. What are your thoughts on this?
I really feel like a big part of that is, again, just the meta that we've kind of put for ourselves right now. And it's been very slow paced. I feel like a lot of players are trying to fit into this role in this solo build where it doesn't really fit their personalities. And that's exactly why, you know, they tend to try to find these situations that would typically serve them well, very aggressive pressure type scenarios, but nobody's giving it to them. And instead they're playing that waiting game. They're trying to find the exact moments to try to play correctly, or maybe even healing off, because for some reason everybody has a sufficient amount of heals coming into their pockets. And it's super difficult to win these fights because nobody's wanting to actually actively take them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's a good point. And another point that we got to bring up is Pars coming in halfway through the competition and almost winning game number 4, Ben.
Yeah, looking a little bit frosty there during the mid game. We saw him take some fights and really seemed comfortable, and obviously he's got to be a little bit overly confident coming in halfway through to pick up and make up some of those lost points that he missed out on those first 3 games. And we saw him up on the high ground, right? Really had that potential to make something happen, but the kinetic blade trying to dash back down wasn't able to put things together and mesh in the final moments. Still though, to make it to that point in their first game on the night, can't really be too disappointed.
No, you can't be. And honestly, Pars is one of the most consistent West players that we saw over the years. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for him in the remainder of this competition. But we got to dive in to the leaderboard. We got to see who's at the top here and how this top 12 may or may not have changed. And sure enough, Rat with a get, and his consistency has led him now to take the first place spot, Gompers.
I mean, he's getting those eliminations. He's finding it. And honestly, it feels like he has been a bit forceful with it as well, being a bit more secretive towards just the aggressors forth and trying to be sneaky with it. And I feel like that's exactly what you need to do. Hit them with a surprise and make sure they have no way of running away, and take it where you can. But those eliminations, obviously, leading them towards the top of that leaderboard. At this point, players got to start fighting for more.
They do have to start fighting for more, but one that is slowly creeping down the leaderboard is Cut here, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, it had a really solid showing in those first half of games. No surprise there. Cut's a player time and time again. If you see him on a prediction, I'm not surprised, right? He's a great player. Doesn't matter what the meta is, he will show out. And you see a lot of the players that we've seen that are kind of OG players in the collegiate scene, right? They really thrive in these metas where you have a really strong shotgun. They have that S-tier aim behind them to back them up in these situations, and they're the ones you see pop off, right? Rat with a gat, another player we've seen for a very long time, now showing out top of the leaderboard. Cut, obviously having a little bit of issue right now. Maybe it's off spawn, maybe it's during the mid ground. I'd be interested to see, but definitely someone to keep your eye on. See those adjustments in these last 2 games.
It definitely is, but it's time for game number 5. Casters, bring us into the next part of this action.
Thank you so much, Panda. And folks, we've got 2 more games left on the day. Bryson, so far from what we've seen, all of the very final moments have been as intensive as the next.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really miss any of the action here, especially with the kinetic blade. We've got the mythic weapons. So much is going on in these end games, and I'm just excited to get into the second to last game as we drop off that battle bus right now.
That battle bus is beeping, folks, and here we go. Game number 5. Diving in with our new first place holder. The first time throughout the day we've seen that first place spot change, and Rat is none other holding it, but with only a 4-point lead over the Clutch Master, the 200-0 of AV.
Look at that. Mega City, man. So much opportunity here. So much life. So much loot for these players. I mean, Rat already grabs him a kinetic blade right off the bat. Rat with the kinetic blade right off the bat. Anyway, looks like this is going to be a perfect positioning for him. And I think he knows that too, as he's kind of just hanging off out on the outskirts right there. As we move over to Sigma, who's in a big fight right outside. Looks like he's going to be moving his way out of the fight, possibly disengaging, waiting for Noodle to push towards him.
Been contested all day. Sigma is now looking a bit scarce at the moment. 0 heals, however, realizes the functional awareness of this drop spot where realizes, hey, there's chug barrels down here. There's a campfire. I have my little snug away place so that way I can get away. And Sigma takes advantage of that knowledge, and in fact, a little bit of a third party backed away that other player. Oh no.
Oh my.
Backed him back to the lobby, unfortunately.
Oh, wow. Sigma just walked out and said, you gave me those few moments, man, and that was your downfall, because he just took those quick shots with that twin mag, and there he was able to put Noodle right back to the lobby, like you said, eliminating him just like that. And now has this whole entire area to himself, as both other players that we see on the map are still pretty far away from him, giving Sigma a good opportunity to loot up and get prepared for mid-game.
And that was two kind of separate stories going on. One player disengages from the other, but Sigma wanted to reimburse that aggression and show, hey, I'm still committed to this fight. Where are you going? I heard that shield crack going off, and now I'm ready to win this fight.
Except our player that was in first here, going in the first 3 games, and then moved all the way to third after going out early. Looks like he's in an early engagement. Gonna need to come out victorious here. Both take heavy hits, but except hitting him with that 63, but now down to 47 health. Able to get his back up really quick. He needs to have a final shot, but no, he has a shield crack right there. 27 health. This could be it for Except this game, and this could be bad for his leaderboard positioning if he goes out this early.
That Memmis needs to be popped right now for Except if he wants to be able to win this fight. Except versus Saint. Saint, we know, a well-versed player around this area, has been contesting over towards the top side of Shattered Slabs all day. However, Except, now for the first time, meeting toe-to-toe, and now we finally get to see what this engagement looks like. We saw Except, like we had mentioned, go down early in game number 4. After holding that first place lead, slip back into third. It is now looking desperate for this win off spawn. Mantles up. A shot goes off. Not able to rattle it back and forth here. Now needs the elimination. But a pickaxe play tries to be made by Satan. However, Except comes out on top.
Wow, Except says, no, you will not do me like that. But as I say that, JJ pops in. Except does not have a lot of health to play around with either here. So he's going to have to look for a big shot. As I say that, he hits it for the 179, Lash.
That is a massive shot, but needs to capitalize on these heals. The Chug Splash being popped above by JJ. One SMG shot could have finished the fight like that. However, Except is now scrambling. Realizes the shambles position he's found himself in. Has to disengage now or never. Could have cleaned up the fight, but unfortunately couldn't capitalize on it. Therefore, has to choose a different way of the path of purpose here. Except now has to creep around. Doesn't want to make himself very known here, because if he knows, it could very well be over here all spawn for Except.
Not too much of a health difference now, and as I say that, it looks like he goes down to a large health difference, and no, he goes down only 85 points. JJ, with only 4 points, was able to take Except out, making him the king of Shattered Slabs.
The opposing players are just now starting to get a whiff of the shield in the water right now of Except, as he starts reeling now 2 off-spawn drops for Except. Back-to-back games of game number 4 and game number 5. Except will now viably drop even more. An unfortunate fall there for Except to drop twice.
Wow. Yeah, Except, seen him in the first 3 games, just absolutely dominating, and so unfortunate to go down early, but still has another game to play around with. K-Burbs holding his own right here in Anvil Square. Another player right off in the midst, but he still has a decent spot for him to just kind of play around with. Look for as much loot as possible. Getting over here to Ziggy, though. Someone we watched earlier on last game go down. Now Ziggy is taking another off-spawn fight, and it looks like he only has 54 to his name right here with 4 health and 50 shield. So he's going to have to look for a vital hit, which is tough to do with the shotgun like the Maven.
When you talk about shambles, this is the exact definition. And unfortunately for Ziggy, it's going to be a very tough spot to be able to get out of this shambles position, because you have players like Bizik that have been known so far today to be like, hey, you're vulnerable? Let me get that elimination on you. Let me find that frag out in the abyss, no matter where it be. He's like got that like bloodhound kind of sniff to him, where he smells it off in the open and says, I see you. Let me get your elimination there.
Wow, an AV on 89 points right now was in second place going into this game. One of our, I think, was that game 2 that we saw AV won. Still just rotating out, but Skyrus right here in a fight with Brutal. Two players that we haven't seen too much of so far in this tournament. Both trade vital shots with each other. And both are trying to get the heals off fast. This is going to be a quick engagement that will definitely go wrong for one of the players.
And this is what we see when players start to get a little bit of a sense of what is going on their leaderboard status, where they see, 4 points throughout the day. It's not looking good, bruv. And Cycrus against Brutal player that has been consistent throughout the day. Definitely has a lot to fight for that top 5. However, Cycrus a little bit desperate and tries to make those moves, but the smartness of this rotation realizes, all right, it's not going too well in my favor, so you know what? 7 builds in inventory, I'm going to disengage.
And disengage is probably the best play for him too, even if it means going back towards zone. Now we have Steez here right outside playing around, trying to fight Psycho. Another player we haven't seen too much of today, but still both players that have been holding their own, not too terribly high up on the leaderboard. 54 points, that puts Steez in a, he's playing around with his points right here and could make something happen. Looks like he was able to raise the flag there too, grabbing himself a decent amount of loot. Now it's just all going to be about how he makes this next rotation.
And Steez, after getting that game number 4 victory royale with 5 eliminations, definitely make a big stance here in game number 5. However, Psycho is not going to let that happen with ease. Goes for the left-hand peek. Not the smartest of decisions here for Steez against a player like Psycho who will make you pay if he has the opportunity. Steez wants to be able to get this shot. The damage will go through. Height taken by Psycho. Steez, though, won't let it happen without a quick little mantle play. Drops down a layer. Now, looks to make something happen. Realizes the weak wall. A great shot will go through, and that's going to be the elimination. A quick cleanup there from Steez, starting off exactly where he left off in game 4.
Wow, Steez is on with that momentum right now, Lash. He comes out of that last game victorious, and he says, you know what? We're going to be making sure these last 2 games are just played with the same drive and hunger that I just showed. Now we're over to Sap. Looks like him and Moon are taking a quick fight, and unfortunately, Sap goes down as Moon utilizes that Mythic Havoc. Once again, seeing that weapon rain down shots, one of the heaviest hitters that we've seen in Fortnite in quite a while.
That's right, the return of the 200 pump power is back in the hands of top-tier competitors. And oh boy, is it showing some big clutch potential. Even some of the lower rarities of the Havoc Pump Shotgun have been showing up massively, especially like we saw in the final moments of Game 2's Victory Royale from AV. These players are hitting their shots, and they're hitting those shots massively.
Yeah, and you know what? You say that. We've seen a few times today where somebody would hit like a 170 or something with just like the lowest rarity of just a common. And that just goes to show how strong of a weapon that is that if you're getting in a fight with somebody with one of those, you have to really be able to protect yourself, and you have to really know just how you're piece controlling things, because the last thing you want is for somebody to just be able to grab your wall or be able to get a quick pre-fire on you and take you out just like that. And as I say that, Moo hits the pre-fire on Moon, both of them trading decent damage right there. Gonna just be about who can get the health off first.
Mundezo knows that the possibilities are now or never, especially a player against Moo. He doesn't want to give up this fight quite yet, but it's going to have to be a disengage now or never. Just in perfect timing, Mundezo gets the combat cachet, and now he's going to be looking good to be able to make any kind of possibilities happen. Maybe even re-engages the fight against Moo, or Moo does the opposite.
It looks like he was looking for Moo right there. Might still be trying to find him, but it looks like they are going in different directions as JJ is hiding right outside of Nevify, the person we saw take out Accept earlier. Looks like JJ is still on a run right here. Doesn't want anybody to know where he is. Now there is a massive flaw to this play right here as you still are way out in the open. And now it looks like he is trying to grab Nevify. He is going for the gold right now, just trying to make something happen.
Wants to make the aggressive play. Hopefully can get the right piece, the right move at the right time. The big beam that will come through, and now Nevify's on the back foot here. JJ is feeling himself this game, especially and is hot on the tails of another top-tier player, and he gets in, packs a punch, and finds the elimination, but another player wants the smoke. I don't know if you want to fight this, though. Lazaro, JJ has been hot all game long, and I wouldn't fight this if I were him.
Looks like JJ and Lazaro gonna take a swift fight here. JJ has a lot of loot too, that if he's able to just get out of there, he could have a decent end game off for him. Now we have Vanilla Cup right off in the distance, who could be looking the third party, something that both players have to be weary of. Something you see a lot in solos, especially with just how games are rotated with the new kinetic blade and everything. It is easy to fall upon a third party, and it is easy to make yourself become the person a third party, as it's just so common to be rotating and then come up upon another fight.
Mundezo, in the meanwhile, finds another elimination out there in the feed, getting very, very aggressive with that Mythic Havoc Pump shotgun. And I'm gonna be honest, Bryson, if that were me in this game, having that utmost power with that shotgun, I'm feeling myself too. But with bait power comes great responsibility.
Amen, Uncle Ben. See, that is one of the strongest, like we've talked about, one of the strongest guns we've seen in Fortnite in a while, and you have to be able to use that thing to your advantage, but you can't get too hungry. And we've seen that so far today. A lot of players that think because they can hit their shots that they're going to be able to take out every person they see. But like we talked about, third parties can become viable. We can also talk about the other person having a good shot too and hitting just as heavy, if not heavier, of a pump shot. You got to be careful when you have that head on your shoulders thinking that you're going to be able to take out every player possible.
That's honestly the lesson in life. You got to make sure that you're not getting too far ahead of yourself if you can't handle it. Mundezo is definitely showing that he can handle it in these kind of environments. Pushing off Abstract Falcon as the disengage will now engage, essentially. As they're just gonna dip off Kinetic Blade. Mutual Bond said, all right, you know what? Fine, I'll catch you later in the end game. Because ultimately, that's what the discussion's going on upon the entire lobby right now. If you disengage now, it's kind of like a, I'll see you later because I'm going to be fragging out in that end game, and everyone's thinking the same exact thing.
Yeah, Moon right there, he had 4 eliminations. I mean, that's 8 points already, and we're only in the 4th zone. That being said, if he can make himself through the end game here, that's a lot of points. We already can expect him to be trying to frag out towards the end of these games, considering already he has 4 eliminations compared to a lot of other players that are just sporting 0 to 1 eliminations early on, as most people are heavily looking to find themselves in the end game, trying to avoid as much fighting as possible. Looks like Brutal out here, 29 points, trying to take another fight, going for something big. Catches him before he could take this Kinetic Blade play. Like I talked about earlier, one of the disadvantages about the Kinetic Blade is it does leave you in that lull for a moment. But as I say that, looks like Brutal takes a heavy shot too from Tragics.
If there's one player you don't want to mess with, we mentioned it in the pre-show, it's gonna be Tragics, as he gets a great buffer shot on a Brutal there, and now has left Brutal wide in the open eyes sky, and unfortunately kind of left without any eyes. Let's see if Brutal can now look, finally see, maybe just spot off Tragics in the distance on very, very low HP. If Tragics even puts off a scent of heals, if Brutal has some kind of visualized sound effects on, it could be over just like that for one of our players that has been in the top 5 all day long.
Brutal fighting just inside Brutal. Could end up being a brutal fight for the both of them. There's a tongue twister. Brutal still grabbing that flag though. Gonna be able to claim that spot. Gonna be able to know exactly where Tragics is too. But no, Tragics has an idea of that, and he's gonna try and get out of the vicinity there. That way he's not located. Because if he's in a bad spot if he's stuck there, and he's able to see where he's at. But AV looks like he's taking some heavy shots right here in a heavily congested spot too. Multiple players running around. AV takes some strong hits. Gonna try and get himself out of here. No, he does have the slurp activated right now, Lash, which could play in his advantage.
What is it with our top 5 right now? They must be drinking some kind of different kind of water at the moment, because they are getting very, very heavily into the action. And once again, we're seeing the spindle in the wheel right above. We see JJ is just fully pushing in on the fights. Has taken a fight against Scolds, a player that has been near the top, not quite there automatically, and has won a fight against Xcept. These players are just making the push for everything.
Moon also just trying to have a high elimination game like we talked about earlier. Going in, trying to take Command K out. Oh, no, never mind. This is, I read the name wrong. Can't totally see. It's, oh, and he takes out, it was Conrad. Moon absolutely destroys him with that Mythic Havoc, a gun we can just not talk enough about Lash today, because it is what has been raining fire down on these players. That 200 pump is a heavy hit. Now utilizing the rifts that we only have around Rift Island, get himself in, going into that end game.
It's definitely huge utilizing that POI rifting, and then the 8 rifts that spawn all around the island. However, these are the issues you come upon when you activate into that rift, is that ever since even Chapter 2 kind of vibes, when we saw the launch pads introduced, players started to get their aim back. They realized, hey, we realized you up in the sky, now we can shred you. And ever since then, the entire mentality around rifts, any kind of sky rotations, has completely changed. So you cannot hang out in the sky for any more than 15 seconds without getting spotted out by somebody.
Yeah, everybody's looking to the sky now. You got to be super careful if you're hanging out up there. It's not like it was in the past, exactly how you said. And you see these bases, you see people holding height now are astronomically higher than normal. And that's because they know. They know that they don't have to play, or they don't have to worry about taking fall damage, except Moo, when they are utilizing that sword. Because of the just the kinetic blades, advanced features, and how it does prevent players from taking heavy fall damage earlier on. Now, Tragics, another player we've seen playing pretty decently well, 76 points, setting himself up for an end game right here, putting him around some of the top players. I mean, we have Scolds, we have Pars, all from the distance. A few players he does not want to be on the receiving end of a fight. So he's got to really focus this up and just look to see where the best possible rotate possible is.
But look at that zone right now. 48 players. I'm assuming 3/4 of those are all chilling on this side of the lobby right now, all coming in from their POIs, whilst players like AV up at the top of the leaderboards, only 2 points back from first place at the moment, just waiting for all those cascading placement points to come through, is chilling all the way up on top of his base, has all the heals in the world to make some kind of crazy play. And one thing I've noticed massively, Bryson, throughout this tournament from AV, is that he doesn't exactly utilize these heals for the heal off in the very final moments of the endgame, but rather utilizes it as a buffer to the zone to be able to make sure that he can find those eliminations when players are trying to make last minute rotates and have that little bit of a stall out through the kinetic blade, therefore meaning massive refreshes for AV.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. I have noticed that. Going over to Bizix, though, utilizing the jellyfish augment, grabbing as much health as possible. Going to be interesting seeing if he utilizes this for a little bit of a heal-off play. Something we haven't seen with the jellyfish yet today. And as I say that, it looks like he was just trying to buy time for the moment as Bizix rotates himself forward, getting himself in the zone, 301 above right now on Storm Surge.
You know what he was trying to do there? Bizix was trying to set up a jelly base for the end game, to be able to mark towards the end game, to be able to be going back with the kinetic blade charges, to be able to have a little bit of extra heals if it becomes viable, which has been massive so far throughout this season's strategies. And Bizix, unfortunately, didn't exactly have enough time to be able to make it happen.
I'm glad you brought that to my attention, just for the fact that I've seen so many people on Twitter talking about a jelly base, and I've had no idea what it was. But that makes total sense now. Moo right here, rotating forward. We're on that 8th out of 12 zones. 43 people still alive. Moo, not with the greatest variant of the shotgun, but still, like we've learned already today, even the most common of the Havoc pump still hits heavier than the Gold Maven. So having that weapon and having the aim with it will still play off perfectly.
Here we go, though, folks. Our first place player at the moment holding on at 94 points. Just barely ahead of players like AV that are still alive and well in this game. And he has players like Steez who are coming into this game hot with early game eliminations and coming off the Victory Royale. Is now going to have to make a quick rotation over, though, utilizing the Kinetic Blade. Gets to a safe spot for now. However, everyone just on the brink of zone so far throughout the first and second partial zones right now, waiting for the first moving zone. We're going to have to make this clear, cut, and clean rotations.
Steez, one of our top players to be watching right now, puts himself in the circle, 450 above on Storm Surge right now. Not something he's going to have to worry too much about the rest of the game, but we could see him looking for some heavy refreshes as his heals in his inventory right now are running a bit low. A lot of other players off in the distance right now as Steez is looking for his next pick, looking for maybe who he can get a few shots off of, trying to get that quick elimination.
Listen, and I would not be surprised to see if Steez has the Light Fingers augment, which boosts the time to be able to reload with those light ammunition weapons in the inventory, and especially with the frag and power he's been able to utilize with that SMG throughout the day. Steez has been looking mighty powerful. But here we go, Bryson. Now we're starting to see how these new augments are coming into play.
Yeah, using that pizza right here, just gonna be hanging out, having a little bit of a pizza party. I remember back in the day when I would have pizza parties with all of my friends, but Ridix is doing that by himself right now, hoping that the cause of a pizza party will make him walk out a little bit richer tonight.
Unfortunately, though, had to use a lot of those heals from the game time augment, which grants you that pizza as well as some chug splashes for your inventory use. Cut in the meanwhile goes down in the elimination feed. Unfortunately, has been slipping so far since game number 2 in these end games. However, AV has been nothing but up since game number 2 after that Victory Royale. And now just waits here for that zone of rotation, chooses off the perfect rotation markers out. And here comes AV, skydiving up towards height.
And as I say that, he just nosedives right back down. Same with Steez right here, just getting themselves ahead right now. Not having to worry about Surge is vital for these players because they're just trying to get in. But as I say that, Steez goes for the elimination, tries to grab it, unfortunately wasn't fast enough, and is now just going to be back and focused on that rotation.
Here he goes, 40 HP, now moves on to a secondary layer, but this is not anywhere where you need to be. Waits for the recharge to go out onto the Kinetic Blade, so Steez now able to get to the front side of zone, but has to be careful of Storm here. 10 HP and barely makes that out alive. One build can place down a cone to protect himself. Now utilizes that Kinetic Blade charge to try and find that refresh. Can he get it? A massive shot goes off, but no elimination yet. Waits off for the damage to go through, but cannot find the elim there in the backside. Just trying, searching, dodging, and weaving for anything of a possibility here.
There's one Havoc pump from going down, and as I say that, Hasbusa takes Steez to the ground, forcing him back to the lobby. Gonna be taking a quick, swift play up towards height right now, as Bryce is making himself known as the high ground king, someone we've seen multiple times in this tournament having height around this time in the game.
It's very dangerous, though, when you have players like Lazaro lurking up towards your lair, creeping around. Mundazo down towards the mid-ground, waits to make a move. 21 builds in the inventory, now utilizes 10 to be able to box himself up. 2 tile layers going out from Mundazo, now down to 2. Has that mythic Havoc pump shotgun in the inventory to make a big play at any point in time, and that's exactly what he does. A huge shot goes up, but it's not enough against players like Charge in the backside. Takes him down, and we're down to the 20 seconds final moving zone here, Bryson.
Texas with the double pump action on him right now. K-Burb goes down as Rander is moving forward. No health to his name, but a decent amount of mats. Bizix had to drop height as he was unable to hold it with the mats situation, but he goes down right as he takes out Habusha. Mr. Waboose chilling right now on a little bit of a mid-ground play right inside of Anvil Square. 6 eliminations, 5 people left. It is all down to this moment right now, Lash.
Melanie has the heals. Can she go up for it? Willers needs to go down to try and find the elimination. Knows they don't have enough heals. And there goes the Victory Royale for the WOT 2 winner of Melanitria with an incredible game number 5 to finish that one out.
Wow. Wow, we have seen it all today, Lash. New winners for each game. Something you absolutely love to see as the story just keeps writing itself. We're not having anybody going back to back to back, but instead, we are having a new player showcase their skills every single game, and that's what you love about Fortnite.
Listen, you love to see it. It is absolutely incredible. The back and forth. And I can only imagine that leaderboard is just inching closer and closer because we saw some top players go down there early, mid, and late. But we got to toss it on over to our wonderful analysts, Panda, Ben, Gompers. What you guys got?
The penultimate game is complete. We have one more game remaining. One opportunity for these leaderboard changes to commence as we prepare for the final game of the finals here at the Collegiate Cup. This is interesting. Going into that final game, there was none of those really top players consistently making their way into the top 10. One name continues to surprise me, Pars, coming in halfway, making into the top 15 for a second time in a row. But will it be enough? That's the question, Ben.
No, I mean, it absolutely is the question, right? We see so many of these players kind of adapting on the fly, right? We've gone so long with seeing the same kind of zone meta. Everyone's comfortable in the way these games work, but now you kind of see a shift, right? They'll switch up a lot of those core mechanics and the zones coming into this season, but then at the same time, you're seeing kind of a return of an old and very comfortable weapon meta. You have that Havoc pump shotgun kind of replacing the classic pump shotgun, has that 200 pump potential, the ability to bail out on these players. So you see a lot of the ones who have that long-term success, and the veterans in the space are the ones that are going to be showing out in these lobbies. Like you mentioned, of course, Pars going to be a one to really show out in the games they actually are able to participate in.
Yeah, and honestly, with the way that this is playing out, this could be a pretty close cycle towards the end of all of this. But Gompers, who do you think could run away with it?
That's a good question. Honestly, I mean, we talked about Rat. We talked about seeing them up in that first place spot. And overall, with the momentum that we've been picking up in the eliminations as well, all Rat is missing right now is that first place spot. And I'm not going to lie. Listen, my pick was NPen, and I'm still going with NPen. I believe in you. Hey, I believe in him. That's all I gotta say. That's all I'm gonna leave it at. But considering on with the Rat, all they need is that one victory royale to secure them their spot, and there is one more game left.
Again, one game remains here as we prepare to get that leaderboard ready and shown for you. But I'm gonna be honest, I'm trying to take a sneak peek here at this leaderboard. Gompers and Pen, I don't see him. I see him in 62nd.
Oh, you know, I mean,
if you want to continue to believe in him, I support you. Honestly, NPen is one of the GOATs. So to see him in 62nd is a little surprising, but nevertheless, it's going to be interesting to see how the remainder of game number 6 plays out, because that is it here, folks. One game remains. Crisp in potentially 5th. It's time, though. Let's talk about the leaderboard. Let's break it all down here. And Ben, first place, none other than AV.
That first place, AV, as it currently stands, and it's close, right? Nobody's running away with anything so far tonight, with only one game left, it being this close. It's always a nail biter, which you gotta love, right? It seems like you cannot come to a Collegiate Cup and expect it not to be close in game number 6. But AV currently 109 points, 10 eliminations in a victory royale. Very solid showing. A lot of points coming by way of placement, but that's just going to be through consistency. Rat with a Gat, of course. Second place, Tragics, Rander, Except, Isaac, Crisp. These are names we've seen for semester after semester in the space, doing well in these cups, now trying to show out. Of course, Isaac, I think I had mentioned it even before we had started, before the pre-show, we went live, we're sitting in the green room. I was like, you know, Isaac, center map, uncontested. He's known to be able to put something together if he has the right loot in the right drop spot, and he's doing well. No surprise. I mean, it's cool to see him back up there in the leaderboard in the top 10, showing out. Cut as well, continuing to kind of slowly drop back down, but still one game, and we've seen it happen before, can push him way back up into that top 5.
A lot of things can happen here, but who are you looking out for in the top 12 here, Gompers?
In the top 12, again, I said it, it's obviously going to be Rap, but I feel like, with the top 3 in general, they're stepping up pretty close, and Tragics has made it pretty far within those placements, honestly, probably making it within the top 10 very, very frequently. The only thing they really do need to step up is those elims, but they're going to have to double it up in order to even surpass any type of point towards that second to first place.
Well, it's all down to this here, folks. Game number 6 prepares to commence, but we got to send it over to the casters to get you all ready. Boys, take it away.
Thank you so much, wonderful Desk Panda. Thank you so much, and here we go, folks. One final game remains to close out our March Solo Collegiate Cup champion. And Bryson, this is only just getting started. To the top of the peak, and I hear the battle bus is launching. Game number 6, here we go.
So much room for these players to move themselves up on the leaderboard. I have no idea what to expect with this last game. A lot going on right here. The battle bus ensuing itself across the map right now as everybody is making their way towards their drop, towards their last game. We got a lot of players like Accept. We're going to have to really buckle down and make sure that they can stay, to make it through off spawn throughout the next few minutes.
But the story will be, will players like AV, 10 points ahead on the leaderboard in first place, will they be able to hold on? The contention looks similar. We'll have to see. Will AV be able to hold on against players like Lazaro, dropping in towards Steamy Springs? So far, going to start off uncontested. It's going to be massive for AV to start this game number 6 off right.
Difficult spot to land in, though, outside of Steamy, because you're kind of in a area that doesn't have a lot of natural cover, so you have to be able to grab builds right away. Now, luckily for AV, looks like on the leaderboard, or not on the leaderboard, on the map, most players are pretty spread out around him, so he's going to have this whole spot to himself. But look at that. He was able to grab a kinetic blade right off the bat, giving him a decent advantage going into the beginning of this game.
AV's now got a little bit of that buffer speed with that kinetic blade to be able to make something happen. Even if something goes a little bit wayward for a little bit of time, that's when he can have that little bit of a back end kind of maneuverment to make something happen if something goes wrong.
Chicken trying to get some fights right here. Trying to put the heat down on Hydra Season 2. Someone we haven't seen too much of today was our #1 winner in one of the games, but now is in 52nd, or not one of the games, one of the qualifiers was our first place, but now is in 52nd this game, not able to capitalize on that momentum going into this, as he goes down to Chicken with 50 points, one elimination to start off the final game, except one of our top players is in another fight in Shattered. Now, we did see Accept come out victorious in all these fights the first 3 games, but struggled to hold on to that momentum going into the last 2. Will it be the same with this game, Lash, or is he going to have to do something? Ooh, and as I say that, Saint puts a heavy shot off on him.
11 HP. The clutch could very well happen from Accept. We know he's been known to make something happen, but the odds are not on his side. Mantle's up here from Saint. One shot could end it all, and unfortunately, Accept will go down, being in first place all throughout the first 3 games. And unfortunately, after 3 very unfortunate runs, Accept will now down all the way from 5th place, and furthermore, unfortunately, at 85 points.
Sad to see it. Accept had so much going those first 3 games, but still, though, 85 points. That is a solid number to be walking out with. Could easily still see him in that top 10 as we finish off this tournament. But now Crisp, someone we've seen playing exceptional throughout this tournament, in 6th place right now, in a fight with Dwimmy, another player we've seen multiple times just kind of chilling every time they're in a fight, kind of hiding on the high ground, not doing too much, but it looks like Dwimmy's trying to make something happen for their final game.
Crisp, after getting that 2nd place in game number 4, has definitely been feeling a little bit hot, but unfortunately just hasn't quite grasped that amount of movement that we've seen from players like Steez, who won the game. It's honestly kind of theoretical storytelling via those two players at game number 4, but it appears that Chris is going to decide to disengage a little bit, spread out the fight a bit, and Doomy is going to follow that same suit, disengage a tad bit. However, he's now swapped out the SMG for a Red Eye, looks for a couple tags, could be massive for some kind of Storm Surge situation, though, right, so we haven't even seen Storm Surge since, I believe, game number 3, maybe 4?
Yeah, we did have it in last game, but not till towards those last few zones. We have not seen a mid-game early zone Storm Surge fight in quite some time. And I think that's just because we get to those moments in these tournaments, Lash, where so many players kind of buckle down on the elimination factor, and they're like, you know what? I've played the first few games safe. I've got to have a game with a few eliminations, especially when eliminations are per 2 points per each. So a lot of these players were starting to figure that out and look for those fights. Psycho right now on a mission trying to take out Spoodle with 24 points, knows that he needs to have somewhat of a high elimination game, takes 25 health off on him too, but Spoodle says, no man, not today. And as Psycho might be taking a quick third party off to the side too.
Psycho wants this elimination, and he wants it bad. Goes up with the kinetic blade, just needs one, just medium-sized tag. It's not even like you need something crazy, like a huge 150 shot to find this elimination onto Spoodle. So Psycho's gonna get in. However, the third party's now coming through, just needs a couple more tap shots, and is now playing with fire here. Starting to get hot. Can he find this elim on Spoodle? One more, and we'll get the job done. Third party sprays coming through though, but ultimately will come out on top.
Psycho, a man on a mission, was not going to let Spoodle get away there, but will it pay off for him in the end, as we did see him take quite a few third-party shots here? Is that going to be a downfall for him, or is he going to be able to get himself away? And as I say that, he is trying to utilize that kinetic blade. Now Ziggy in another fight right now, trying to take out Vamp early on. Ziggy, another player we hadn't really seen much of until recently in these last few games, have been trying to capitalize on this quick momentum he was able to grab later on. Both players are in a weird middle spot on the leaderboard right now that this game is vital for both of them. So whoever is able to come out victorious on this fight, that's going to be the person that's going to be able to hopefully find themselves a step higher on that leaderboard.
Notice how we're not seeing too many players up at the top of the leaderboards fighting for these positions, right? These players that have gotten a little bit desperate, they're getting scrappy, and they're willing to do anything that it takes to be able to make some kind of placement moves, fight for those spots on the leaderboard to make the prize pool differential, as well as just ultimately the confidence differential, because it's all down to the mental status of how you can really confidence yourself, especially here in solos game mode, where it matters even more for being able to find teammates like for the FNCS.
Ziggy trying to utilize that flint knock. Brutal taking out Vamso, but no, Ziggy says, not today, I will be the winner. This is what you call being backed into a corner by all three of these players. All of them needed to make something happen here, so they were desperate. They did everything they could, and it looks like Ziggy is going to come out as the victor out of this third-person fight.
And I find it interesting, look at that second slot in the inventory. You see the flint knock pistol coming back through the Go for Broke augment just introduced in literally yesterday's 24.1 update, alongside the charged shotgun that comes with that augment. And I'm a little bit surprised not to see the charged shotgun in the inventory along with that flint knock pistol.
I'm wondering if they got that augment, Lash, or if somebody else did and they dropped the flint and they decided to pick it up, because I agree with you. It is very interesting to see them take that over the charged shotgun. A charge where if you know how to utilize that weapon and you're patient, like we talked about before, is one of the top heaviest hitters within this game. One of the only things that can really compete with the Havoc. Moo right here, trying to put shots off. Unfortunately, though, utilizing the twin mag, not going to be able to hit too heavy from that far. Doesn't look like they're going to take the chase, though, and instead are going to utilize this spot now that it's their own and just look for as much loot as possible.
It's all about the battle for players like Moo, the battle of reputation. We know coming into today, we hyped him up based off of being October Solo Collegiate Cup champion, and now it's all about that status. Meanwhile, Riddick's up against a big pressure of that legendary SMG coming through. The sprays ring fire out. Riddick's on the top end of the wall. Let's see if the pressure will be able to rise up in this fight.
Assassin right now trying to make something, living on a prayer, as Bon Jovi would put it. But no, only 33 health to his name on height. Looks like Riddick knows what he's doing, trying to chop that height out, grabbing it himself as Assassin is going to completely flip-flop with him, hoping for something to happen. Looks like he might be running low on mats, if not out of mats right here. Gonna be a difficult spot for him.
Difficult spot indeed, but it's all about how well the peaks and angles come through as Rix finds the elimination. A great shot to be able to take the correct angles, the correct peaks, good distance there. Riddick played that fight excellent.
Yes, he did. Steez, though, fighting Crisp. Two players we've been watching a lot of on this tournament. Two players that you'd hate to see one of them go down this early on, but unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be it for one of the players. Steez taking a heavy hit, but was able to deflect that last one, which could have been the game ender. Both of them at a low health. Gonna be looking for anything right now, anything to bring them forward, to put them in, to have a chance at that end game.
They're coming into this game saying, you know what? Might as well make it happen now. Who's going to be the winner on these leaderboards at the moment? Steez has been very hot. We've mentioned it so many times so far throughout the day since his victory. And now, just waiting to make something utmost powerful. And look at that little loot steal away. He says, give me that shotgun. Give me those slurp juices. And now that's going to give Steez the advantage in this fight against Chris, who is 6th place on the leaderboards currently, against the total of 13th place coming into this game of Steez at the moment. This is a very top battle that is now just swayed onto a little bit of a tipsy-topsy scale here.
Steez now trying to take a little bit of a disengagement play. Moving over to AV. Around a few other players, 110 points, still holding that first place like it's a piece of cake to him. But he's got to make sure he takes that with a grain of salt, and he doesn't end up pushing something that he doesn't need. And as you talked about earlier, Lash, we're seeing a lot of these people on top of the leaderboard knowing that they don't need to be taking these fights right now and just trying to play for their own. As AV looks like he's being taken on a little bit of a chase right here, trying to get away.
This is not looking good right now for AV. AV coming into this game, 10 points above 2nd place. Lazaro, though, now starts to make a move. However, Quirky in the back end of this fight is now starting to play a little bit of a helpfulness here against AV on a downspout of possibilities here. AV just has to look to get out of here. Cannot stay in this side of the environment to be able to stay alive. A slurp truck right in front of him. If AV just notices it out, it appears he does.
Wow.
AV can now just barely slip away.
What a huge find for AV in the moment. Gonna put him right back up on top. Now he just has the perfect spot to just go find some health, which he's doing right now, and find a good place to base up on. Grab some real estate and just chill, waiting for that end game. And it looks like he's gonna do that in a bush, as we see these bushes being so large. Gonna give him a decent spot to just kind of wait it around right now in Frenzy Fields, as he still is looking to rotate, trying to find the perfect spot where he can take a reside in.
And folks, you may have heard that sound key go off. AV realizes the POI rifting is now out and about, so notices the time to get away. Isaac, though, now up into the mix, 81 points, realizes he has a chance to get up towards that top spot of the top 3, maybe even that 1st place if he has just a similar game to which we saw him take home in his Victory Royale game of game number 3. He has the resemblance to do so, but can Isaac to have the dog in him, the strength to be able to rise up on the occasion?
The dog is in him, Lash. I 100% think Isaac knows what he's doing. Is going to be able to capitalize on that. I mean, look at that loot he was sporting. The gold Havoc, the gold Twin Mag. He is ready to go. But Waboosh talking about Havoc right now. Raining the Havoc onto Quirk right here. Utilizing the mythic Havoc. Trying to just get a quick shot, grabs that peak right there, goes for the peanut butter edit. Unfortunately, wasn't able to grab that cone. Still just trying to grab as much real estate as possible, making this the best piece control that he has ever had to fight with, knowing that it all resides on this fight right here if he wants to move forward on this leaderboard.
And they're both fighting over this capture point of the POI rifting. They're both fighting over who gets the slurp juices, who gets that mythic pulse rifle. Essentially fighting for the odds of this game. Who's gonna do the best? And so far, Waboosh has been set up for victory. Just off of one half of the leaderboard, one half of this loadout right now. To be able to hold the power, like we had mentioned earlier, of that mythic Havoc pump shotgun is going to be huge. It's just a matter of whether or not it's used correctly.
Exactly. Like you said, you quoted Uncle Ben earlier. That is a gun that you have to make sure you hold the responsibility with. A lot going on the Rift Island right now, though. Waboosh still in this box fight, trying to take out Quirk right here. Just trying to grab the wall. It is anybody's game, and you know what? We can talk about ping now, just hence the fact that we are playing on NA Central servers, and we have everybody in the US playing this now, everybody in the North American region playing this now, since it is not a split East and West. So ping differs variably between all these players. So it's very interesting to see how a lot of players that might have been playing on 0 ping now have to completely switch up their play styles, where we're seeing a lot more pre-fires, seeing a lot more players that take walls that couldn't before. It's a whole new game for a lot of these people.
Adaptation, the true message that has stayed along Fortnite throughout its entire history, really. And now we truly get to see it at its beauty once again. Meanwhile, Mr. Waboosh continuously makes some kind of effort to make this fight turn in his way. It's all about whether or not they can truly find what is worth it to make something happen. But oh boy, Bryson, Isaac is doing it again.
Trying to get the jelly base. I would love to see this actually go into play today, as I have just only heard rumors about it, but I've never seen somebody actually utilize a jelly base properly. So I want to see if Isaac is able to make this happen, because already looking at it, I understand the strat. I understand what he's doing, and this could play out big time for him. Now, we're looking around that. That's only if the zones want to play out in his favor, and that is something he cannot predict, because what do we not have anymore? We do not have the zone prediction augment. And now, if that was a thing, just think about how key that would be for these end games. But no, he's gonna just have to totally hope that it goes his way. And as I say that, look who just went down.
Steez in 9th place will unfortunately fall there and will willingly be, unfortunately, drop out of the top 10. Such a rough fall. But you see there, up into the shadows, up into the background, K-Burbs, a player we saw come 2nd place in the November Solo Collegiate Cup Finals, is now looking to make some kind of replication of status, saying, hey, I didn't go anywhere. It may have been 4 months differential, 3 months, 5 months, whatever it may be. Now I'm ready to show up. However, Ziggy is looking for a massive shot. The beam could come through at any point in time. K-Burbs is just about to give careful a 50 shield tag, and now Ziggy's on the hunt.
Ziggy wants this. 2 eliminations to his name right now. He knows that this game needs to be a high elimination game. Takes K-Burbs with a heavy hit, takes him out, utilizes those shots. Unfortunately, K-Burbs was not able to hold those walls against him. Like we talked about earlier, ping is so vital for some of these players, and Ziggy was capitalizing on that on a lot of his shots there, knowing that his twin mag was going to be able to rain through a lot of these players' builds. And rain it did, as he was just able to grab his 3rd elimination for just this game.
A huge shift of momentum there for a lot of players. It's starting to settle in right now. What exactly does this game mean to you is a question that will be answered here in the next few zones, in the next several minutes of game number 6 here of the March Solo Collegiate Cup Finals. Tragic's at 93 points at the moment so far. Heading into this game was almost 20 points back of that 1st place movement. However, in 3rd place is still having that chance, that enlightenment, with that mythic Havoc Pump shotgun in the inventory. The heals, everything is set up for success.
Yeah, Tragic he's vibing right there, but Laz utilizing that mythic and the gold twin mag, trying to just make something happen right here. Goes in and takes out Waboosh, another player we saw, and look, Lash, what is in the inventory? The 2 mythics, the Mythic Havoc and the Mythic Pulse Rival. This is a deadly combination, something you do not want to be on the receiving end when you have someone like Laz, who is absolutely king right now, looking for every elimination possible. And now that he has those two weapons, whew, it's going to be a tough one for a lot of these players.
Hey, Lazaro's best game is a 15th place 2 elimination game. So, Lazaro, I want to see it. I want to see your best game yet here in the final game. Show everyone who's boss. Show everyone what you can do, especially with the great power in your loadout's hand.
Cut over here. Decent loot to play around with, too. Chilling on a pizza party. Just going to be looking around. Has a lot of mats. We see AV off in the distance. Crisp. Melanie. So many big players that we have been talking about today are all around in this end game trying to make something happen. Now Cut rotates himself forward, still has a little bit of the ways to go. That's one of the downfalls of the kinetic, is you do have to wait. It doesn't send you as far as we've seen in the past with like the shockwave hammer. But once you stop, you've got to kind of chill for a second because you'll be out in the open. You need to wait for it to replenish.
Rat finds an elimination in the feed, folks. Rat finds an elim in the feed. Our second place player is starting to make moves here. As the lobby gets that much more claustrophobic, intensive, here everyone is looking for the fight's prime. 31 points at the moment, looking desperate at the moment, trying to find anything that could send the sign of a refresh, but unfortunately it's going to be quite the opposite here. 2 bills and go off, and unfortunately we'll go back to the lobby and becomes the refresh. We're in here, 91 points, has just found them way into the top 5. Let's see if they can now start to make that big push and hopefully rise up towards that first place spot.
Yeah, Reindeer, someone that we have seen little of, but at the same time, they're so far up ahead on that leaderboard with 91 points. And look at the loot they're sporting right now. They've got a lot to play around with. Moo, that's right off in the distance, 13th place. Rat with 2 eliminations. Second place, though, 104 points. Meaning, Rat's going to have to make a heavy move if he wants to see himself go into that first position. But still, we have a lot left. We are only on the 8th out of 12 zones. A lot more ground for these players to cover.
Folks, these are the players that you need to be watching out for. On the points on just the bottom left of their name right now, you see Rat at 104. If you see AV in the lobby, you see him just off in the distance with a little pink marker around his name at the top of the leaderboards. Tragics and Rand here alongside everyone just on the break. Those are the teams, those are the players that you need to be watching out for just on the points aspect, because they are the difference makers. They are the game changers.
Pal right now, holding his own, grabbing some spot in the zone. A lot of other players still just hanging out right outside of Cut and Melanie too. AV in the same vicinity. Look at that though. AV is only sporting the common rarity of the Havoc pump. That's going to be something that might not play out into his favor, but at the same time, we've seen how heavy every single one of these rarities go. So who knows? He might hit that 170 shot that he needs and be able to grab a quick refresh.
AV will need it. It's not a want, it's a need here for AV. And if anybody is experienced enough to make something happen, anything, to make the game-changing movement, just send themselves all the way up, even more above the very top of the leaderboard to be the best, it will be AV, especially considering all throughout the day we've been seeing the line of veteranship truly shine, and I believe it's gonna shine brighter than the sun here in the final moments of game number 6.
Rat right now looking to rotate, heads forward, holds himself up right here, grabbing himself ahead of zone. Gonna look for some quick rotations as we're seeing multiple players just flying through the air. Gonna be looking for any specific spots possible to hold themselves accountable here, to hold themselves forward in circle and try and grab a quick rotation. AV, our top player right here, 113 points. Gonna be really trying to make something happen right here, as he knows that this endgame is vital for his position on the leaderboard.
AV dodges out of danger there with the Mythic Pulse Rifle rattling on top of his walls. We see first and second place on this leaderboard right now, all with a difference of 8 points here. Make the difference. AV high into the sky with the kinetic blade, while Rat with that continues to make the rotations. Low towards mid-ground layer, will make the fall, will make the drop now or never. And there goes off the rotations with the kinetic blade. Gonna drop down, but a huge shot. Rat's gotta be careful here. This is not looking good, Bryson.
81 health to him right now. Gonna be trying to get those minis off as quick as possible. In second place, too. He knows he's got to play throughout this game, Lash, if he wants to be able to make something happen here, especially knowing that when AV is still alive on the leaderboard. But look at that. He's got decent mats to play around with. He has a kinetic blade. He could hold his own right here. We see a lot of people going down. Conrad's still alive. Williams, he took out Elliot Williams right there. That's who it was. I was trying to see the name. But look at that. Moo on height right now. 10th place, trying to make something happen.
AV at a total of 120 HP. Looks for the back lurk. 116 points, still up at that first place spot at the moment, but he's running low on builds here. Doesn't quite have the refresh. This will mean massively if he can just find the right peak, just find the right shot of damage. Now, been relying on those back end heals to be able to play the edge of zone all day long, but up to this point has not been able to find it. One build left. It's coming down to the wire here for AV.
Oh, grabs a quick refresh right there on builds. 224 wood left. That's going to give him 22 builds to play around with right here, Lash. That's going to keep him a little bit farther back in the game, but still, he is one headshot on the Havoc pump away from going down. A lot of these other players. Oh, and we just see Rat go down to Ziggy. Rat, our second place, unfortunately, but as I say that, AV goes down directly after.
Our top two are out of this game with AV and the top two of Rat, while Tragic's at 101. He needs this Victor Royale if he wants to be able to win his second ever Collegiate Cup Finals, but it will end right here at 104. Will now go down to the back of zone. Chris now looking for his second Victor Royale of the day. Towards the backside, top five here. One choke splash keeps the dream alive. Can he find the final shot on the charge down below? Does Charge have enough heals? It's the shot off, and he finds the elimination. That's number 4, but I do not believe that he has enough heals. It will not. Isaac goes down to zone as Silent, Frost, all in the midst. Frost picks up the Victor Royale, rounds it out at 95 points.
Woo-hoo! Lash! What a game! And for another winner, someone we haven't seen won a game today, Frost, someone who I haven't really even been paying too closely attention to throughout the day. Crazy to see him come out with 95 points. Like I said, man, Fortnite is anybody's game, and these games prove it right here, as so many of these players are fighting head on, and we're seeing so many new players come forward with Victory Royales each game.
That's right. It is incredible to see the division going across the entire landscape. However, we still do not know who is running away with that first place. So we gotta toss it on over to the desk to show us who is the victor.
The victor. Man, this is a close competition to finish off the day. Honestly, probably one of the more closer Collegiate Cups that we've seen throughout the years. So honestly, I tried to add up some numbers behind the scenes as we were preparing. I have zero clue. None. I don't know. I'm going to be real with you. People at home, I don't know. I wish I did, but I don't, because it is just that close down to the wire here in this game. And honestly, what a way to finish it out. We saw some big names from the top 12 go down early. We saw Pars, who looked like he was having an incredible second half, just showing up at the second half, go down early. Like, literally, it's just a wild game to watch here, Ben.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
Hey, maybe it's something about the spring semester, but something's always special. It feels like almost everyone in these lobbies, it always comes down to the wire, right? It's everything is on the line. They know it, and it's close every single game. And you mentioned it, right? Front runners, even in that top 5, regardless, even though we saw so many big names exit earlier on in the game, it still felt like one of the most stacked games we saw on the night.
It definitely was, but Gompers, you've been a part of these Collegiate Cups for quite some time now. What would you rate this on the Collegiate Cups you've been a part of?
Honestly,
Be honest.
listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not the most exciting. Just due to the fact that a lot of these players really are sitting and waiting. And it was, I feel like half of these games that we saw, it was a lot of like, look at Bizik. Like right there, right? The amount of just squids laying around for the heals. Frost just running down and keeping themselves alive. I would say in a term of whether or not it was exciting, I would put it on the lower side of the scale. If I would say, was this the funniest and the most fun I've had casting, I would put that on a higher scale. I think that this was probably one of the funnest games that I've seen.
Look, I'm going to be honest. We've had some of the best plays, in my opinion, and the most outlandish plays. A lot of heal off wins. We knew this coming into the day, but we also had there in the final game a quick exchange, both tagging each other at the same time and going down there in the final moments, which could have been impactful to their score on the leaderboard and so on. So, I mean, it's definitely one of the wilder Collegiate Cups, I think, in my opinion, especially to have both regions obviously come together. This is the first time we're getting to watch this in a standard BR mode where the NA has come together, combined, and played against one another in a Collegiate Cup. So it's super interesting to see how that played out. However, the leaderboard is going to tell us the full story. It's going to be able to tell us where the people lie at the end of the day, and we're getting that ready for you. It's close, and as much as I want to take a sneak peek, I want to share that moment with you all at home. Of course, my co-analyst here in that moment, because genuinely it's anybody's game there in the final moments. Especially, you saw Bizik go for the jellyfish play.
Oh my god,
he had the box set. That was the play that won Queasy 3 games in a recent PlayStation Cup. So that tells you that strategy was good, but unfortunately he couldn't execute it on it flawlessly. But it's time to execute on the leaderboard. And of course, we got to announce our winners for Collegiate Cup of March is none other than, drum roll please, of course it is AV, walking away as your March Collegiate Cup Solos champion here, Ben.
Wow. I mean, to be honest, AV Silver, the performance that he put on tonight earned that top spot. Absolutely through and through. That first place position was earned. You can see him here. I mean, such a great player, and to see him finally connect the dots here in the finals after 2 qualifiers, coming out strong, showing that he has what it takes on the big stage. Congratulations, AV Silver. That's gotta feel good.
And look, move that FNCS trophy over. Put the championship of the Collegiate Cup trophy up, because that's what it's all about. AV walking away just an 8-point lead over Rat there, Gompers.
Man, it was so close. I feel like there with Tragics going so late into the game, I 100% thought that would have been the victory royale, but AV running away with it. I mean, the eliminations came up. They were having such a good time with it. They managed to actually rise above Rat with a GAT. And that in itself shows just the amount of dominance that AV had in the game. Most of the time, yeah, playing for those placements later on, but that's the smartest thing to do, and you can see exactly why that paid off.
Yeah, it definitely did pay off. And look, Bizik's right there, 103 points. Had he successfully pulled off the heal off in the final moments, he could have easily slid into 3rd place. But unfortunately, going down early cost him the few places here on the leaderboard, in which the difference is a few $100 here, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, we knew coming into the finals it was going to be interesting, right? It's a new prizing format, $25,000, but everyone's taking home something just for qualifying, right? We knew that was going to affect the players' mental. It's going to affect the way people approach the finals as a whole. And still, regardless, we saw so much happen here, and you can see it, right? Prize breaking down. But I mean, regardless, right? These players worked their hardest to push themselves up and through. Kind of sad to see Cut slowly fall down that leaderboard just outside of the top 10. So close to holding on to it. But regardless, I mean, everyone here in the top 10, these are players we see over and over and over again. It's so cool to see them develop and grow as individuals on a stage like this regularly, month after month. It's just amazing to watch and follow their journey.
It is. It's so amazing to see this completely unfold. And honestly, I think we just kind of have to recap the day. We need to recap, of course, our champion from Grand Rapids Community College. Let's shout out Grand Rapids Community College and honestly support these schools more because they are housing March Collegiate Cup Solos champion AV. So look, incredible stuff here again from AV, but we got to get the boys back in here to get our final thoughts on the day. Let's go down the line, Lash all the way to Bryson. Let's talk about highlight moments, incredible things, and what you were excited about, starting with Lash.
All right, so I gotta break down the story of the veteranship that was defined all the way throughout the day. I mean, we see just a glimpse of our top 10, and we see so many FNCS grand finalists through all the way back in Chapter 1, Season X FNCS, and you see all Collegiate Cup veterans in the space. People like Ratwood coming away with that second place finish, and ultimately, I bring it down to the new zones, which was such a game changer of adaptation. So the players that know that veteranship, they have the mindset to be able to take that adaptation and run away with it today was honestly exhilarating to watch today.
No, it definitely was. Ben, final thoughts.
I mean, just kind of touched on it there. I mean, Lash really hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's the ones that we keep seeing, right? It's so cool to see and awesome to be a part of another step in these players' journey, right? We're coming to the end of the semester of this year for a lot of these students. People are going to be graduating. We're going to see new players coming in. We're getting towards the end here, and just to be a part of this one step in these players' journey, not just within the collegiate space itself, but Fortnite competitive as a whole, is awesome to see. In and out of FNCS, these players developing and growing and improving on the big stage. It's so cool, man. Love it.
No, it is so cool. Honestly, what's also cool is the prizing for this event.
Oh, yeah.
To be honest, like, again, this is a new format here now that we've combined NA. Everybody at least walking away with $200 just for qualifying. Like, this is so unique here in the Fortnite space, and it's cool to see everybody getting a little chunk of the change here if they're able to qualify on to the finals. So congratulations to everybody that made it here. You're walking away with at least $200. And honestly, first place, of course, AV, walking away with a sweet $1,000. So great stuff here from the prizing. But Gompers, it's your turn. Final thoughts of the overall day. Go.
I had a lot of fun, honestly. I knew what I was coming into this with the new meta. I was excited to be able to see the kinetic blade come through and exactly how these players are going to use it. But I feel like the most exciting thing is always coming back with these new metas in place, with these new maps in place as well, and then kind of just experiencing the differences of the game, whether it's slower pace and a lot of players are trying to play for those heal offs, or, you know, we're seeing a lot of aggressive action because of that shockwave hammer and whatnot. So I think that's the most exciting thing for me.
I agree. And look, Bryson, finish us off. What was your highlight moment here from the day?
3 words. The Mythic Havoc Pump. The craziest, strongest weapon we have seen in Fortnite recently in competitive, going back to the good old days with the 200 pumps and just seeing so many players utilize that, especially during these quick end game rotations where people are just flying through the air with the kinetic blade and then hitting one of those pumps mid-air like that. It is just, it's refreshing to see. I love it. I love it. And it was so fun to watch tonight.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. Obviously, everybody at home, make sure to go follow Caster Lash, BenK_live, Gompers, and Unamused Bryson on all socials. They're an incredible team to be around. And for you all, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate every single one of you. And until next time, you take care. And we'll see you on the battle bus. Beep, beep. Beep, beep.